You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next, the May 17th meeting of the LaPorte County Board of Zoning Appeals. You can find more information for this meeting by looking at www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the May 17th meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals. If you would, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. April, would you lead us? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May I get a roll call, please?
Melissa Mullen-Jamischke.
Here.
Dwayne Hogan.
Here.
Glenn Minnick.
Here.
Adam Karanka.
Here.
April Daly. Here.
I will entertain a motion for the approval of the meeting minutes from the April 19th meeting.
I'll make a motion that the minutes be accepted as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Let's move on to our petitions this evening.
I'd like to go ahead and just make a motion right up front now for petitions 1, 2, and 3 to come off the record and come back live again tonight. They've been tabled.
So I have a motion for petitions 1, 2, and 3 to be removed from the table. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same, those opposed, same sign. All right. Before we get started this evening, I want to let everybody know that the only time we will entertain public comment is during remonstration. So if you have something to say, you need to do it during the remonstration period for that petition. And remonstrators will be limited to 3 minutes this evening. And again, as I tell everyone, we want to hear something new in your remonstrance. If we have 3 people that get up and say the same thing over and over, then we're going to move on to the next one. Okay? So petition number 1 this evening is a petition for variance of special exception for Tong's Property LLC, Yan Tong Guan, owner, and Sunbreak Entertainment Corp., Han Cheng Yang Gao and Zong Zhen, renter, represented by counsel Andrew Volz of House & House. For an outdoor shooting range, the property located across from 6961 South 3rd Line Road, Kingsbury, Washington Township, zoned M2 on 38.507 acres.
No, it's adequate.
Good evening.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, council, Commissioner Pullen. We're here on a petition for variance for special exception pursuant to Article 24, and then Article 24.05.
Excuse me, Andrew, would you make sure your mic's on?
Check, check.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. We're here pursuant to a petition for a variance of special exception for, as you indicated, Tong's Property LLC, and then Sunbreak Entertainment Corp. All of their representatives are present here in the second row. It's kind of interesting here because this petition is new in and of itself, but at the same time it's old because they had presented something late last year, earlier this year, that was dismissed pursuant to lack of jurisdiction because all of the named property owners weren't indicated in the petition. So this board has heard that initial petition, number 1, but number 2, we've also now submitted additional evidence in the form of letters from a certified NRA firearms instructor indicating his sign-off on the proposed plans, the outdoor range business plan that I believe all of you have a copy of, the range safety and design plan, once again, and then what was submitted pursuant to Exhibit A was in fact 3 options that could potentially be considered with regards to placement of this outdoor shooting range. And again, just for a little background here, my clients are residents of the city of Chicago. There are no shooting ranges in Chicago. Shocking, right? Well, except unless you walk outdoors. I mean, clearly, walk down Clark or whatever else. That being said, they're going to market this to their clients in Chicago, also locally here, and it's going to bring a great amount of interest into LaPorte County, and certainly we do have KOP and that shooting range out there, which is in the same area. But because this property is zoned M2, even if it was zoned M1, we still need the special exception. So we're asking for that, and I believe that pursuant to the criteria under section 24.05 of the JZO, all 8 of those items have been met. Again, we've made some changes, and I don't want to refer back to the original petition because this is something new. We've made changes to the berm height. We've received letters of support from certified range masters with the NRA. All three of my clients are certified NRA instructors. And this is going to satisfy a need that would bring taxpayers money to LaPorte County. It really would. I understand that there are some remonstrators present. I do also understand that those remonstrators may have been remonstrating against the previous petition where these 3 options weren't outlined. So we are asking for a variance a special exception variance to allow the installation of an outdoor shooting range on that property across the street from 6961 South 3rd Line Road in Kingsbury. It's on 38.5 acres. It's not being used at this point. And the surrounding areas, my understanding is there may be at least one individual present that will be in support of this. I know there is a remonstrator present in the form of an attorney, and I do appreciate his position or their position with regards to safety. But I think the plans that have been put together here that we have spent an enormous amount of time putting together show that this meets and exceeds, in fact, NRA requirements. And I know we've got a certified rifle person here, formerly of the Marine Corps, so he can speak to that. But we're talking about raising the height of the berms, changing the location of the shooting ranges, not interfering with wetlands that are out there. I think this is the highest, best use of this property, and we would ask that this petition be granted. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have remonstrators this evening. Attorney Ambers, if you would please state your name and address for the record.
David Ambers, attorney at law, 601 State Street, here on behalf of LaPorte Lake Development Incorporated. Can I approach with?
Please, and when you return, would you make sure they get that microphone down for me?
Put it down.
Yeah, so we can make sure we get it in. Thank you.
As I said, I'm here on behalf of LaPorte Lake Development Corporation, the owner of over 100 acres north of this site and contiguous to this site. My client's very concerned because that property is being marketed both by him and by Tony Rodriguez with the county for commercial development. There's been some substantial interest in the property, just never got the deal yet. And it's highly unlikely anyone's going to want to come out there and build a factory next to a shooting range, especially when, if they go by their plan, they're going to have 8-foot high side berms. That's just too dangerous. Factories are more than 8 feet tall. Somebody shoots over one of those side berms, it's going into a factory and possibly hitting a worker. On there, and Mr. Volz mentioned the marketing to Illinois. They have farm ground in Illinois. They can put this in Illinois closer to Chicago than driving out here. As they state in their materials, Illinois you have to have a training program to obtain a concealed carry license, and they want to drag them all out here. And they ought to find something over in Illinois if they're going to be training Illinois classes. They even note that they're, marketing within 2 hours of the location, both in Michigan, Illinois, and Indiana. Like I say, on the range construction, they're showing side berms of 8 feet. That's worse. This is actually a worse design than what you shut down in Wanata. If you look at it, he had much higher berms. He had a higher berm behind the targets, and we still shut him down. And now this is a lesser plan, less safety, closer to businesses. Sims Meats right across the street. Hyler's Industries has a building up the road. I think last time there was a remonstrator here from a chemical company, or they package chemicals. This isn't the place to put this thing. KIP might be the right place, not this parcel of ground in KIP. What I have given you is the petition in remonstrance of this petition, and they have failed to address all of the criteria of Article 24.05 of the county master plan. The grant of this special exception will be injurious to the health, safety, and general welfare of the committee. They have not discussed how they're going to address lead or noise concerns, and if you remember, the noise particular was one of the biggest problems and the one that you shut down in Wanata. They have not discussed how the project will not be injurious to the public health, safety, and welfare. It will be injurious to the use and enjoyment of property in the immediate vicinity for the purpose already permitted, again, because of the noise, because of lead, because of possibility of stray bullets going over low berms. That road is in terrible shape out there, and that's a private road. And it just does not qualify for the orderly development of everything the commissioners are trying to do in that KIP area with the train tracks they've added and their marketing for the intermodal site. This just isn't the right place to plop down a shooting range. And it's just generally contrary to the purposes of the ordinance and will permanently injure other property or uses in the district. There are two attachments to my remonstrance. One of them from the National Association of Realtors that says if you have property near a shooting range, your property value is going to decline 3.7%. Well, most commercial property out there is being marketed for $20,000 an acre. 3.7% of that's a pretty big decrease, and I would argue that, particularly for my client's property right next to it, the decrease would be higher. And then I've also given you a document from EPA, best management practices for lead at shooting ranges, and again, that's a health concern that hasn't even been addressed. So on behalf of my client, we would ask that you again deny this range as you did last year and protect the property owners that are already out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other remonstrators tonight, either for or against? If you'd like to come forward. State your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Earl Miller. I'm with Acker Castings and Hyler Industries. We are at 118 Kumler Drive in LaPorte. We also have a facility at Kingsbury Castings on Third Line Road. I spoke last November remonstrating. It wasn't actually a for or against. It was more, we didn't really know much about the project. And so we were asking a lot of questions because we had a lot of concerns. And some of those were addressed with the other petitioners. And so I just want to mention that since then, these fellas have approached us, and we've had a number of conversations, and actually they've been pleasant conversations. And we believe that that they have good faith effort in toward what they're trying to do. They've shown us their new plans. They've changed the orientation of the berms that should be protective of Dankert's property, which is directly north to there. They have we had mentioned wetland issues, and they have looked up wetland rules, and it appears to be within what would be protective of the wetlands out there. They've added to the height and the width and the length, and so actually one of the other things that we would be in favor of is because there's a potential collaboration between the two parties and that came up because they need embankments, and we being a foundry have a byproduct of foundry sand, and so we spent a lot of time working with IDEM and getting classifications and approvals from IDEM for exactly these types of beneficial reuse projects. And so this would be a good one. This would be a really good use of our sand. Now, I can't speak to I can't endorse the designs that they have, but it looks to be in a better, condition. And as long as they put vegetation on there, and it seems like it should deaden some of the sound. It's a loud area. We're a foundry. Also, property owners next to a foundry probably don't have as high of a property value either.
I think not.
So the only other thing that I think that we had talked about previously was the road maintenance, and Third Line Road is a private road, and we'd have talked to them, and they've mentioned that they would participate in the repaving of that. We put money into that. Other property owners do. Some folks don't. No names mentioned. But they have. Again, it appears that they have good faith effort in what they've talked with us about. So I just want to, I hope that something can be worked out. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other remonstrators? Now's your time to speak, either for or against this petition. Andrew, if you'd like to come back up, we'll see what kind of questions we have as a board.
Thank you, Madam President. I guess I would just like to address the issues raised by the attorney for the remonstrator. Once again, there are 8 factors that are required to be met in order for this board to make the decision. And the issue, again, is that this is zoned M2. We're not talking about a residential area here. We're talking about industrial. And the previous individual that came up and spoke with regards to a foundry, you're not talking about quiet at any point in time. They run 24/7. And with that being said, my client's operation will not be that. And it's not like this is going to be World War III out there. It's limited in scope. It's not as big as the shooting range that's at KOP. It's smaller. It's unique. We're talking about a tactical pistol course. We're talking about a rifle range, and then we're talking about law enforcement. But then we're also talking about courses that are going to be offered that don't even involve a handgun or a firearm. That's what they're trying to do here. They're trying to go the length of what a self-defense strategy or mechanism is. You don't need a gun to defend yourself. You have other ways to defend yourself, number one. But number two, as is indicated in your packet, you don't necessarily even need to put yourself in a dangerous situation. And that's what that refuse to be a victim class is. It is not injurious to the public health. Again, we're not talking about a situation where we're in residential. This is zoned M2, almost the highest level of use. The surrounding property will not be injured. There is no hazard. It will be served. In fact, they have agreed, as indicated by the previous gentleman, to assist with recovery and or repair of that private road. They are willing to invest money in this community, and that money is going to then reap further investments, because whether or not Mr. Ambers wants to say that this is being marketed 2 hours away or whatever else, at the end of the day, $1 from Michigan and $1 from Illinois is the same as $1 from Indiana. So if you've got people coming from Michigan and Illinois to use this facility, the money's the same. It's coming into the county. And they're not just coming here for a shooting range. They're going to stop at restaurants. They're going to shop. They're going to buy gas at $5 a gallon. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. I think this is a fantastic use of this property. And again, there are multiple options that are there. My client has also indicated that the side berms, as indicated, as 8 foot. He would be willing to raise those to 20 foot. So 20 foot all the way around. It's basically like you're shooting indoors at that point. I'm a firearms guy. And I've done indoor range, I've done outdoor range, I've done the whole 9 yards. And when you're in an area where your concentration is focused on your target, you're not shooting over here, you're not shooting over there, you're shooting down range all the time. So I think that argument is specious, but I would be willing to entertain questions from the board here at this point.
I'm going to ask, I think, the question that's on everybody's mind, and let's just get it out of the way. Why not build this in Illinois where they live? Why bring it out to LaPorte County where they have no vested interest other than they think this is the perfect property?
Because I think the issue is that to do, and as I indicated before, shooting ranges don't exist in Illinois because of the restrictive gun laws that are there. And yeah, we see how well that works in Chicago. But the reality is that the hoops that you have to jump through in Illinois in order to construct something like this are simply insurmountable. They just are. And then when you look at the fact that this project or this range would be within a 2-hour drive of multiple metropolitan areas, then you're going to draw people to LaPorte again. And then they might say, okay, well, this shooting range is great, but let's check this other one out. Oh, let's go to third base. Oh, let's go to Bistro on the Green, whatever. They're coming here and they're going to spend money. And so, I mean, to answer your question, Madam President, they can't do this in Illinois, which is why they're trying to come here.
So there are shooting ranges in Illinois.
There's 2 of them that I'm aware of in the Chicago area, and they've been grandfathered in,
So you're thinking specifically of the Chicago area.
which is where they're coming from. Granted, downstate or in rural areas that may be different, but my guys are coming from Chicago, and they have people there that have concealed carry permits through the state of Illinois. They want to practice. There's nowhere to do it. The waiting list for those shooting ranges in Chicago is months. And if I need to practice and become familiar with my firearm, I can't wait 2 months in order to get on a range where I can put 35 rounds down range and hit center target or whatever else.
Okay. Thank you. What other questions do we have?
So there's been a lot of talk about EPA and lead abatement. The plan shows a lot of talk about bullet traps, sand bullet traps. Is there any lining? What's the construction of those actually look like?
From my understanding, there's going to be a concrete or steel backdrop that's then going to be buttressed with sand, which is the standard construction of any shooting range that I've been at, from Arizona to Alaska to here or whatever else. And then vegetation is planted, which will absorb noise, and then that is then turned around and recycled, where it gets run through a trap, the lead's pulled out, and then it gets sent back to a recycler or a remediator or whatever else. It's not going to sit in the ground. It's not going to leach into the sand or leach into the groundwater. They're going to do this on a recyclable basis.
So what we're talking about is basically a composite burn where you're looking at combination of sand as the immediate stop, concrete, and then an earth berm around it.
Correct.
Okay.
April, what do you have?
I guess I have one question. I mean, so we already have a shooting range right there, you know, within 3 miles, maybe 4 miles. I didn't drive it. And it's loud. And it's loud. And it's driving, but it's driving the noise, and it's closer to the game preserve, so it's more isolated. But I don't think they shoot rifles there, and I don't see.
Yes.
They do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I've been there and shot them myself.
I mean, what is the range on a rifle? I mean,
Well, it
the lethal range on a bullet out of a rifle is.
well, that's up to physics. Again, I mean, that's up to the laws of physics. In
Yeah,
theory,
there's-
if I shot a rifle up in the air right now at 45 degrees, it could carry, I believe the numbers are, Mr. Bijou, you may be able to comment on this. I think it's up to 4,500 yards potentially. But the issue there with the comparison with the shooting range that exists right now is there are, I believe, 10 times the lanes there. And when you go out there, as I've been out there, it sounds like World War III. You're absolutely correct. Because you've got guys out there with semi-auto weapons, you've got guys out there with muzzle loaders, you've got guys out there with 50 caliber BMG stuff. This is a different situation. We've only got 3 lanes, that's it, and it's going to be a rifle range, a pistol range, and a tactical range. That's it. We're not talking about what KOP is, where they've got 17 lanes that can be operating all at the same time, up to the range master's discretion.
I'm just concerned about, you know, the lethal range of those automatic rifles and the long range rifles. I mean, in a training situation, it concerns me when I look at a map and you look at the direction they're shooting and the town of Keatsford Heights, the trailer park out there.
Understood?
It's a concern.
Will this range be membership based? Will it be membership based or will it be just open to anybody?
Membership based at this point, which means that it's going to be a very, very exclusive clientele, and you're not talking about people that are coming in just off the street like you can do at KOP and pay $5 and get on the range. Now we're talking about, and again, they're going to be vetted. Everybody has to be vetted, number one, because individuals in Illinois cannot carry a firearm unless they have a license, and the process to get that license is very arduous. The difference between there and Indiana, now Indiana is now a constitutional carry state. You don't have to go through that process like I have with a concealed carry permit, but at the same time, this is not marketed exclusively to Illinois or Michigan or whatever. It's marketed to everybody, but it's going to be a very, very exclusive clientele, which is going to be very different again from what the range of KOP is, where anybody and their mom can go out there with 5 ARs and shoot off 1,000 rounds in 20 minutes, and make it sound like Red Dawn Part 2.
In deference to Andrew, I am combat rifle and pistol certified, but I don't want to present evidence to the board. I'm not sure that's appropriate as the board attorney, so that's why I'm being quiet.
Noted.
Duly.
All right, well, if there are no further questions from the board and there are no remonstrators, I will entertain a motion. Don't all jump at once.
Melissa, I'd like to provide a motion for the petition of variance for special exception to Tongs Property LLC to be granted.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
If I may intercede, we have petitioners have submitted Exhibit A and Exhibit B to their petition.
And C.
The three options.
And C, so we have 3 options. So we should include some specificity as to whether it's 1, 2, or A, B, or C, or all. 'Cause I want to attach those to the findings so it's clear on what the designs are. And it's perfectly okay to say A, B, or C plans, and then they can choose from there.
Okay. So I'm going to provide an amendment that that the petition be granted on contingent to options of Exhibit B and Exhibit C, or E and or.
B and or C.
If I may provide a little bit of a discussion for that, avoiding the proximity to the road on the south side of the property
Well,
and fire and drain.
we've got a motion on the floor, so we're not going to discuss it
That's fine.
until after.
Second.
All right.
So I need a second. Can I step down and second it? I can't.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, that or that.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Okay, hearing none, the motion dies for lack of a second. So I will entertain a new motion.
I'd like to make a motion that the petition for a variance of special exception for Tongs property be denied.
I have a motion to deny. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second.
I have a couple seconds to deny. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations, that got denied. All right. Let's move on to petition number 2. Petition for variance of use for Edward W. and Deborah S. Arnold, represented by counsel Andrew Volz of House and House LLP, for construction of a 68 to 70 unit assisted living facility with potentially 6 to 8 detached senior villas, which would be allowed if the property was zoned B1 or O1. Property is located at 4155 North State Road 39, LaPorte, Center Township, Zone B3, on 4.01 acres.
Notice is adequate.
All right, Attorney Volz.
Thank you, Madam President. Again, my name is Andrew Volz. I'm an attorney here in town with House and House with an address of 717 Indiana Avenue. This is, again, kind of a goofy situation because this petition originally was filed a couple of years ago, so now this is a new one, quote unquote. We're talking about the petition for Bella Largo to allow for construction of, again, it indicated in the minutes or in the agenda, 68 to 70 units. It's actually 63 residential apartments, which would be permitted if the property was zoned B1 or O1, but it's in fact B3. Again, pursuant to Article 28, Section 2811, there are 5 elements that need to be met. And obviously you're well aware of what that is. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare of the community. The use and the value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The need for variance arises from some condition peculiar to the property involved. The strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will constitute an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property for which the variance is sought, and that it does not interfere substantially with the comprehensive land development plan. So what this is here is this is an assisted living facility that's going to provide beds for what is coming as the quote unquote gray wave. The reality is here in this country and around the world, we've got a situation where there is the baby boomer generation that is now going to be coming into a situation where they need help living. They need assisted living. And these facilities are in dire need across this country, let alone in this county. With regards to the project scope, it's a $14 million project, which would allow for approximately 100 construction jobs and then 50 full-time healthcare jobs starting at $18 an hour. The design releases and map have been provided to you, as well as a letter of support from 39 North Conservancy District, a letter of support from the insurance agent, and then a drawing that actually shows what I believe will be remonstrated against here with regards to this quote-unquote fire suppression plan. I have a number of individuals here that are ready to communicate what they know about this project and whatever else, but I kind of want to just give the framework here. I understand this is a political issue. I get it. We're talking about they want a water tower. Whether it's the city of LaPorte or 39 North or whatever, they want a water tower. The fact of the matter is this property and this project already has a water tower in the form of a 1 million gallon lake. And this is the same type of fire suppression system that exists a mile away at Lindy Praxair and 4 miles away at La Lemire. The exact same thing. So if the Center Township trustee or any individual from the city water department or somebody else is going to get up and say the fire suppression system is inadequate, they're wrong. Because you have the documents in front of you. It's been signed off by the state fire marshal and by the Indiana Department of Homeland Security. That's the highest level you can go. You can't go any higher. And this is an auxiliary system that is designed to not tax the water line that's out there. Meaning that if there's an issue with this property or anything that goes on with fire suppression, they have the ability to handle it in-house, number one. Number two, then they also have the ability to allow for any volunteer fire department to come in and pump from there. So you don't have an issue with water, you don't have an issue with flow, you don't have an issue with this. We have commissioner approval on this, as I think you're well aware. Any and every contractor or subcontractor will be bonded by the county. That's not a concern. And the reality is this is the highest, best use of this property that would, again, infuse $14 million into this county. They're not getting a tax abatement like the stuff that's going on in the city. They're paying money. And they're ready to pay money. And they're ready to get this project moving. They need to get it moving as soon as possible. And I mean, we're well into quote unquote construction season at this point. So we would ask that this petition for a use variance be granted based upon the fact that all the items indicated in 2811, meaning section 2811 of the JZO, have been met. And I'll bring up Mr. English here at this point, who is the project developer, and he can kind of suss this out a little bit further. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah.
If you would please state your name and address for the record.
I'm John English. I live at 4144 North State Road 39 here in LaPorte. I'm the developer of this project. I'm going to try not to reiterate things that Andy just said, but some of these are going to cross over, but I'll be as brief as possible.
Thank you.
Currently, there's this country, about 15% of this country's population is 65 and over. I'm one of them. It is estimated that by 2050, that percentage will grow to 20%. It's 70 million of us. We had 2 market studies performed for this marketplace. And the conclusions of both studies showed that a current and future need for a project of this size. We need to be prepared for what's coming. We're doing that. Our building is a 1-story, 47,000 square foot facility designed and built with 33 units of assisted living and 30 units of memory care. Along with many senior living features such as private dining, hair salon, exercise room, so on and so forth, Bella Largo will be the first senior housing facility in the market area to be designed and built as a virus-resistant facility. In addition to that, we will have the only, and this might be the only one in the country at this point in time, we'll have the only private virus-free visiting area. So there won't be any of this looking out the windows and waving to your loved one. Let's hope that we never get back to those days, but we're preparing for it. The project is a total cost of about $14 million. About $11 million of that is for construction labor and materials. Most of that will be going to local Indiana subcontractors and suppliers. And as our attorney just told you, all our contractors will be bonded with the county. Through census buildup, Bella Largo will be adding new, long-term, high-paying professional jobs to the local economy. Once stabilization is reached, Bella Largo will have created 50 of these new high-paying jobs. During construction, there will be 100 construction labor jobs. Once stabilized, Bella Largo will be a major tax revenue source for the county. It's safe to assume that that tax revenue would be approximately, and I would think a whole lot more than 20 times the property taxes that are being currently collected from the single-family home that is on the property. This project is a win for all concerned. In 2020, LaPorte County commissioned an Indiana housing analyst firm to help the county unearth reasons for housing development stagnation. 2 of the key findings in the report were there was a need for a wide spectrum of housing. That includes senior housing. The second key finding was that commercial centers with dense housing should be supported. Bella Largo meets both those key findings. Bella Largo fills both a current and future need in so many ways. It will be an asset to the community and the township and the county. In this room, as Andrew pointed out earlier, and on Zoom, we have a few experts in their field that will address the fire protection issues that Andrew related to. Our architects and engineers who have all experience, much experience in the senior housing marketplace. And through this, they worked, our engineers and architects worked with the state fire marshal, the highest levels of the state fire protection people. And through our normal senior housing industry process, we have received design approval from the Department of Homeland Security, Division of Fire and Building Safety, and the State Department of Health Engineering Department. Those approval letters were handed out to you guys earlier. We have Gary Radke is here, our civil engineer, that will speak about the overall fire protection plans which he has helped design. When Gary is completed, we would like to bring up Mike Williams as the person who helped design the auxiliary fire protection system, and he will be the party that will be installing it. Lastly, after Mike is completed, we would like comments from Mark Riffey, who is on Zoom with us right now. Mark is the vice president at Effie Moran, and he will be our fire suppression contractor. Mark is not only a sprinkler contracting expert, but he previously worked in the state fire marshal's office. Gary?
Good evening.
Good evening. If you would, please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Gary Radke. My office is at 5821 North US 35, LaPorte, Indiana, 46350. I'm a professional engineer for the last 50 years and designed many water systems in Indiana and also through the United States. I operate Radke Engineering and Surveying for the past 17 years in our location on US 35. I'm the engineer for 39 North Conservancy District and the downtown company that is the developer for this facility. I previously worked with McMahon Associates out of Valparaiso, Indiana, and I designed the original sewer and water system for 39 North Conservancy District and 9 other projects since that time. That was over 20 years ago. The 39 North project was designed with cooperation with the city of LaPorte, and they approved the system that we designed. We had many modifications that they wanted, which we did to get the approval. Once they approved it, we submitted it to the state of Indiana, and they also approved the plans. There has been a statement saying that this was a poor design. We have never heard why the people keep saying it's a poor design, but we received the approval by the city, who was the company that actually supplies the water for the system. They also provide maintenance of the system. For this facility, which you received our plans on, there's actually 2 water systems that will be constructed. The first system we call is the public system, which is owned and operated by 39 North Conservancy District. In front of the building is a 8-inch diameter water main, and it's looped on both sides to a 12-inch pipe on US 39. The system provides drinking water and water for the sprinkler system, plus the 2 hydrants that you see on the plans. Again, the city of LaPorte approved that system. The private system is something what was added since your variance was approved over a year ago. And what that is got an inlet into the pond. The pond was constructed totally in clay. There's no sand bottom in the pond whatsoever. And the opening in the intake pipe is 2 feet from the bottom of the pond. A pumping system is going to be installed into the existing building. The pump will suck the water from the pond. By the way, the pond has 1 million gallons of water available. The 1 million gallons of water is taken, the calculation is taken from 2 feet above the bottom and 3 feet from the top because of the winter ice expected. And the difference is 1 million gallons of water. Again, it will be sucked in by the pump system, and it will be pushed out in pressure to 2 hydrants, again by in front of the building complex. What's interesting, the owner is also is going to be notifying the fire departments that they can use this system to fill their tankers and fire trucks. So it'll be more of a public system for other fire departments. Using a pond for fire protection is absolutely not something new. It's been used in Indiana throughout the whole state and many other states, actually. Most of the time, the fire departments do not have a connection point or hydrants to hook onto these fire pond systems. So all they do is put a pipe into the water and pump it in right to their tanks or their fire truck. My son is an employee of a fire department in a different county here in Indiana for the last 28 years. And he told me that basically they use ponds throughout the whole area to fight fires for outside the city where he works. And it is unusual to have a standpipe to connect to, and he has never hooked onto a hydrant like we are planning to. At this point, I'd like to introduce Mr. Mike Williams. Mr. Williams is from Peerless Midwest. Him and I designed this private system, and he'll explain it in more detail, and he has a lot of experience in doing this. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michael Williams. I am Chief Executive Officer of Peerless Midwest, Inc., 55860 Russell Industrial Parkway, Mishawaka 46545. I've been in the business of design and construction for fire protection water supplies since 1986. My dad founded the business in 72, and he did the work before then. Then he retired in 88, and I'm no longer active in project management. My son is now, so I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm here tonight on behalf of Mr. English and his group. What we do at Peerless Midwest is we match up projects for industry, commercial development, etc., that desire to have water supply systems for fire suppression other than municipal systems, okay? These many times are located way out in the country, what have you. There's a variety of ways you can do it. There is National Fire Protection Association Code, NFPA, that we utilize. There's various methods within the code, such as wells. We do open ponds like this one. We do storage tanks of various kinds. So there's a number of possibilities. For this project, we're intending to use a large 1 million gallon capacity open reservoir that the owner has, and install an intake structure that will take the water into a sump, and then use a line shaft turbine vertical UL listed electric motor driven fire pump to deliver water under pressure, a wet system, to the underground water main proposed for the property. There will be 2 hydrants, LaPorte standard hydrants, that would be available for use for not only for the Bella Largo, but also for the community. If the fire department was out there and needed a supply, they could hook up to it, open it up, hook up their stuff, and off you go. It's a fully automatic system with UL listed automatic fire pump controls. So that's really what we do and who we are. I mean, it would appear to me a benefit to the community to have something like this. And I would suggest that he's going the owner is proposing to go above and beyond what would be considered a minimum requirement for fire suppression. So that's what I have for you folks. And next, I know Mark Riffey from Effie Moran is going to speak. I think he's on TV here.
If you wait just one moment, I think we have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
So, I mean, I know of designs for factories and that use this kind of system. Like, how many assisted living facilities have you designed this kind of system for?
I would say dozens throughout my career. Miller's Mary Manor comes to memory. I've done a lot of jobs in my career. They all kind of run together. I've been doing this a long time. We just finished. I did one about 2 years ago in this Springfield Township. It was an old elementary school that got converted for use. Does that ring a bell to anybody here? Just outside of Michigan City. Is that part of it? Well, anyways, it's commonly done. Yes.
But you're depending on the water supply that is coming from the city by way of the county extension to run the sprinklers that are going to protect the people inside each unit?
Sir, that question would be best directed to the next speaker. My knowledge of the project is this. The system we are being asked to construct would be fully capable of servicing the fire suppression system inside the nursing home. The individual heads, the system inside the building could safely be handled by what we are proposing to do. At the same time, however, I understand there are also the possibility of utilizing a city water main for the same purpose. So it could be done either way. And I think Moran is the correct one to talk to about that. We've got an Ashley.
Can we? Yep.
Mark, you there? Mark Riffey? Might be some kind of technical.
So I'll give him a moment or so to see if we can hear him. Perhaps is he that second one? Do you guys have another speaker? No. I have a question or two that I'm not sure you're the right one. While we're waiting, let's see if he gets on. So my understanding is we're either going to do the public system or the private system.
We have been asked to construct a private system. That's what my business does. And is that consistent, John, with you? Okay. So it's a private system, 100%.
So if you're going to speak, sir, I'm going to have to get you back up on the microphone, if you would, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
I've got Mark on the phone here too, by the way, because he can't get through on voice.
That's something on his end.
Yeah, he's having a problem with it on his end. We're more than willing to put him on the speaker on the phone here and through this.
Just make sure he's in the microphone.
Okay. Did you have a question for me?
Yep, so my question is it's either public or private? One or the other?
There's a public system on the site, and then there's a private system on the site.
So it's going to have both systems? Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was clear. And who is, so if there was an instance where we had a lot of drought, the public system would be able to, the public system would be able to take care of the needs. And I guess my only other concern then is who is going to be responsible for maintenance of like hydrants and.
So if it's a private system, it's
still okay.
We got a power generator. We're gonna have to do the same thing with that. There's maintenance with these buildings.
Sure. No, I'm well aware of that. Okay.
Let me get Mark on the phone here. See if this works.
Let's try it. It's either gonna work or it won't.
Hi, this is Mark Griffey. Can you hear me?
That sounds pretty good. You're gonna have to stand there and hold it though.
I apologize. I was listening to some of your questions. Let me say right off the bat with regards to your last question on maintaining these systems. The state has adopted a NFPA standard called NFPA 25 that does require routine inspection, testing, and maintenance to ensure these systems are operational.
Okay, great, thank you.
My name is Mark Griffey. I work for the F.E. Moran Company. I am the Chief Business Development Officer for the company. Our address is 8771 Boning Lane, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46216. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. I offer my information as a experienced person in the field of fire protection. As the gentleman mentioned earlier, I spent 10 years with the state fire marshal and left there as their chief deputy state fire marshal in the late 80s, early 90s. I then went to work for the National Fire Sprinkler Association to promote the widespread adoption of regulations for installation of fire sprinkler systems. Specifically, we spent 10 years with regards to sprinklers in multifamily and residential type facilities. I also rode the back step at the Wayne Township Fire Department on the west side of Indianapolis for 10 years, and I have 22 years of experience as a sprinkler contractor. And I have certifications as a fire protection layout technician, and that's with a program sponsored by the Society of Professional Engineers. Mr. English called me earlier last week with regards to the need for fire protection in this building, and having experience with the regulations and also being a part of the Fire Prevention and Building Safety Commission for the state of Indiana in the 2000s, I can assure you that the fire protection system proposed for this building is more than adequate for the minimum state regulations, as they explained earlier. One of the questions was regarding the fire sprinkler system and the needed water supply. I just wanted to let you know that the type of fire sprinkler system designed for this building will use what we call quick response sprinkler technology, and the sprinklers will operate so fast they will be designed to protect the occupants and save their lives in the event of a fire, even in the room of fire origin. We anticipate in the residential areas, while we will put sprinklers in every room because we do not know exactly where a fire may break out, we put the fire sprinkler system designed for having the ability to flow water to 4 sprinklers in the event of a fire. In actuality, probably 1 to 2 sprinklers will activate to control the fire, but the NFPA standards for this fire sprinkler system design for this type of structure would require us to design for 4 sprinklers. With regards to some of the other areas in the building, such as the kitchen area or the kitchen service areas or mechanical rooms, we would design for a higher hazard than we would for the residential occupancies. But there again, the number of sprinklers would probably be at the most 7 to 8 sprinklers might operate, each one flowing about 20 to 25 gallons per minute. I certainly appreciate your concerns about the need for fire flow, but for a facility as such as this, having built-in fire protection, there still is a concern with regards to having a fire flow for the structure. With the water supply that services this area and that 1,000,000-gallon pond, the water supply is more than adequate for a structure such as this. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, and I just wanted to be brief and not repetitive. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to your group this evening.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mark?
I have a question.
Okay.
I think I comprehended most of what he said, but you have an open pond with 1,000,000 gallons of water in it that you're going to try to control the water quality, but there's no way to guarantee the water quality of that pond. And he's telling us that they're going to pump it through the sprinkler heads of this assisted living facility, and it's going to work fine.
The initial sprinkler service is being run off city water.
Okay, so I've
Talking
heard
to your
that
microphone,
answered.
please. I apologize.
So I've heard that answered 2 different ways now. You said it could go either way.
Yeah, we can still go either way.
Okay.
Gave Mr. English.
I'm going to need you to speak into the microphone as well, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
We spoke to Mr. English and his group about an alternative for using our system for the sprinkler system in the building in addition to the hydrant system. We can do both with what we have, or we can do either one. It's the same to us. There's extra money for us to bring our main into his building. That's the only distinction. My understanding, though, is they're intending to use the city water for the purpose of the suppression system inside the building. I would tell you, open ponds can be used for sprinkler heads with a device that they call return bends. If these are commonly applied by fire suppression contractors, and Mark, you can pipe up here anytime, but return bends are used for open pond sources in sprinkler systems to handle the issue that you raised, sir. That's what it's a design enhancement to a sprinkler system designed to accommodate the grit that you might anticipate with an open source. The intake structure itself is constructed to off the base of the pond so that you are relieved from bottom silt and sedimentation, and then like what John was saying before, we allow for ice as well in the calculations.
But we want to make sure that you understand that the stress on the public system with the water suppression system in the building is very minimal. That's what Mark was trying to tell.
The fire demand for the fire sprinkler system is going to be way less than the domestic demand would be for this building. Okay, and with regards to your concerns about sediment, again, that NFPA standard that requires these systems to be maintained has provisions in it to do obstruction investigations on a routine basis to ensure the pipe is clear and unobstructed.
Okay? Any other thing for Mark, and I'll cut off the squeaking phone.
No, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being patient. I really appreciate this technology.
Yeah, it was hard. Thank you.
Thank you. So do we have any remonstrators this evening for this petition, either for or against? If you would please come to the mic. And state your name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Tim Warner.
Tim, I think I gotta get you in that mic a little better. Just like,
That better?
that's better, thank you.
Hi, my name is Tim Warner. I'm the superintendent of the City of LaPorte Water Department, 1119 Lake Street here in LaPorte. Couple points I want to make here real quick. Okay, so I don't know if you're aware of the issue 39 North Conservancy District, but the district is under a physical limitation of 1,500 gallons a minute. That's at any given time. That's regular domestic use plus fire suppression. The hydrants in that system can throw out about 1,100 gallons a minute. So at least 400 gallons a minute for domestic water. Their average usage is between 80 to 400 gallons a minute with no high flow fire situation going on. So I heard that, you know, the city did approve the system in 1998 for what was out there at that time, with the promises of water towers and bigger pumps and loop systems being put in that were never done. 24 years later, here we are, still the same system that was put in 24 years ago. I'm not here to argue this variance. I'm just asking that the restrictions, the same restrictions as before that you guys applied to this variance, are signed off by the proper local authorities. There's a lot of moving wheels in this fire system that they have going on, and I think the local fire departments and the local agencies should sign off on that. This is a public safety issue. Nobody's arguing the need of this project or the design of the project. I'm not here to argue that. I'm here to tell you the facts of the water system. So let's get to the water system here. I heard these gentlemen up here talking about the sprinkler systems can run either pond water or city water. That is not allowed by IDEM. That is a cross connection where pond water could enter into a public water system. It has to be one or the other. It is not allowed by IDEM. I'm an IDEM certified operator for the state of Indiana, and I'm telling you it's not allowed. So, like I said, in general, the city fire department has a mutual aid agreement with Center Township. Okay, so if there was a large fire out there, the city would naturally respond. Their big aerial truck pumps minimum 2,200 gallons a minute. It couldn't even run off the city hydrants out there in that area. And I know that the city of LaPorte Fire Department is not going to hook their $1 million trucks, $250,000 trucks to pond water. They're not going to do it. And I don't even think Center Township runs off of pond water anymore. It's hard on pumps, and there's just a lot of issues there. So just the numbers I gave you at the 1,100 gallons per minute through those hydrants, that's close to Severs Road, which is where the water system starts for the Conservancy District. Getting out to Mr. Arnold's property, they only flow about 920 gallons per minute because of friction loss through the pipe. Residual drops down to 46 pounds. At 20 pounds, there's a boil order. That's IDEM regulation also. So like I said, I just wanted to come up here. I'm not arguing this variance. I just think the proper local officials and agencies should have to sign off on this project. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have one question for you before you, with respect to the IDEM, and you said you're certified with IDEM for pond water wouldn't be entered into a private system.
No.
Is that for potable water and non-potable, or does it matter?
Yeah,
to
anything
IDEM?
that's drinking water, there can't be a cross connection. So even if say your home, you're hooked up to a well, and services come out your way, you cannot tie in your plumbing to that well, household plumbing, without proper disconnection of that well and to prove that that well has been disconnected.
So
Same theory.
The use of the pond water, though, for fire suppression is separate from
Yeah, so
drinking.
I get that.
I just want to make sure we're all clear with that.
So there's still a connection. There's still a connection from that main to a public main,
Right.
via main to a fire main.
Okay,
That's still a connection, and that's considered a cross connection in the state of Indiana.
great. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other remonstrators this evening? Please. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Board.
Andy Snyder, Chief LaPorte Fire Department, 809 West 18th Street, LaPorte. As Superintendent Warner had mentioned, I'm not here to say that you shouldn't, approve a variance. I just would strongly recommend that that variance be approved in the same form that it was, with the same restrictions. Again, that the local authority having jurisdiction approve any design before it moves forward. Having said that, it's unfortunate that it was brought up to you that this is a political, personal issue earlier, because that is the farthest thing from the truth. This is a life safety issue. That's what I deal with. Mr. Arnold called me pushing 2 years ago with this project and made comment that, hey, I've got an idea. He even indicated that I know that the water flow is not sufficient for the project. He said, I have an idea to implement a pond as a supplemental to this. I told him at the time, I'll look at it with an open mind. I got back to him and I told him, I do not see that this will work. Not in the best interest of public safety. There's too many working parts, as was mentioned a minute ago, and I just don't see that as a feasible option. The most best option is to fix the system that is there. Currently, that system, and you can argue it all you want, that it is sufficient, it is not sufficient. And you can, and I respect engineers, have one in the family, I'll respect that, but practical matters rather than engineers. And when Center Township, who we, as was mentioned, we have a mutual aid agreement, so our personnel can be put as quick as risk as theirs with this. When they have on more than one occasion drained that entire system, depleted the entire system by hitting it with their trucks, it tells you right there that the system is not sufficient. So I respect their numbers, but they're not correct, because it's proven in practice when they've hit it that it won't work. I did notice too, and it was a good question to ask about what was going to supply it, because you can take the pond out of it. Again, if you even want to put that in there as a supplemental, NFPA, they mentioned NFPA. NFPA calls for a supply source that will supply fire suppression operations and also the suppression for the building. Now we're talking about two separate things. But let's take the pond out of it. Again, getting that far north, Tim just mentioned 900 and some gallons is what you can expect at that point. Also, again, NFPA talks about that a minimum 1,000 gallons of water supply is needed for suppression, and that's at a residential level. So, again, I want you to know you're getting selective information, and my whole goal here is life safety. I just want to make sure that you take that into consideration, and again, reiterate, put the restriction that local authority, because that's who's it's affecting here, that Center Township, with our input, will have some authority to say yes or no to this project. Okay. I will go back to the pond a little bit, since it's been brought up, and it's also a topic for you to discuss. While it sounds good on the surface and what they made sounds good, I will tell you what Tim didn't talk about. He hit it right on the head. It's a private system. I'll tell you right now, in the city of LaPorte, and that's also across the fire service industry, there are multiple private hydrants that are connected to the city system. But if our water department is not maintaining those through a contract basis, maintaining them and inspecting them twice a year, our department has SOP that will not hit that hydrant. It's for our safety, it's for our safety of our equipment. Again, Tim, I wish that I could find a truck for $250,000 now. Unfortunately, we're talking $1.8 million for our new ladder truck that we're about to replace. I'm not going to hit a private system that I can't trust with that truck, let alone to bet somebody's life on it. Again, I'll go back to, unfortunately, you were told it's a personal political issue. 2 years ago, there was no politics even heard of in this system. And I was asked, and I gave the same answer then. It's not an option. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Sir, if you'd like to step forward. You're kind of keeping track of time. I got 3 minutes, man.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Paul Skiat. It's Skwiat. I represent the Villas of Briarleaf Homeowners Association. I am the secretary on that board. I have been a resident of the Villas of Briarleaf, which is on Highway 39, for 14 years. I did not get all of the details of the attorney's 5 items that we talked about, but I will tell you that I am very concerned about items number 1 and number 4. A safety issue. I believe that the technical people to talk about the fire suppression, but I will tell you that this afternoon, my neighbor would have loved to have been able to hook up to the pond because our water pressure was virtually down to 0 when he was trying to wash his car. The Villas of Briarleaf have been made aware that we are looking at a complete shutdown of the public system in 2025, and we are faced with some very, very serious issues. I can tell you that the Villas of Briarleaf have been identified as a major residential user of the 39 Conservancy water. We are a major player here. And the residents, as they speak to the board, have indicated they have virtually no confidence in the 39 Conservancy. I realize that's not your issue, but we are very, very concerned that we are not getting answers to the issues that we have for our own residential supply, let alone fire suppression and these other things. Very, very concerned. And we, as the Villas of Briarleaf, will not only oppose or ask you to oppose this particular project, but if somebody wants to build a garden shed that takes any water, I'm going to be standing up here again because we've got serious issues out there. And that pond, God bless those folks if they can put a fire out, but I don't know if they want to take a shower or drink that stuff because there's times when they might have to do it. And we're very concerned. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you. Like, and remember, we're going forward. We want to hear something new from every remonstrator, please, if we can.
Sure. Lisa Pierzakowski, Center Township trustee. I just want to focus not on the fire issue, but the simple fact is the mayor has said in many meetings in 2025 he is shutting off the water to the 39 North Conservancy. So if this property is built, what happens to those people that are living in that property and they no longer have water? Number one. Number two, as you've heard, we have water issues out there right now. You add 70 flushing toilets to that and running water and showers. As you heard in Briarleaf, they're already having issues. So until the water tower is built, I mean, there's just no way. I think it's a great idea. Yes, it's needed, but build the water tower. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. This will be our last one.
Edward Arnold, 4155 North State Road 39. First, I hope you're limiting your approval on what is the jurisdiction of this board. There's been a lot of things brought up that probably shouldn't have been. I will tell you that my property is one of the most isolated properties you could imagine. Neighbors, I don't have any. I own everything around except for the Hampton Inn and the Pat Kindig property, and they both issued letters of support. So this facility we're planning to build has no remonstrators as far as neighbors, okay? In terms of this water issue, this is like a Russian dossier. It's fake news, okay? We have a multi-story hotel there, and people are taking shower every day. If the villas have an issue, I didn't build the villas, but they must have some issues in their plumbing design and inlet pipes, because I take a shower every day, and we're on the high point of the system. Also, Mr. Warner points out that it's 900 gallons per minute. I challenge that. I have the paperwork. The hydrant in front of my place, it will flow, dropping below pressure, 1,400 gallons a minute. We have bigger pumps than were originally installed, and also the fake news is 39 North never committed to building a water tower. Never. I was on the original board. We stated that if a large water user comes in, such as a food processing plant, we would have them help pay for a water tower because we realized that would be nice for the city of LaPorte and us. But this is all a fake news thing. We're trying to be pushed to do something that we can't afford. It's a small group. We've asked for help. Nobody wants to help. So we're taking it upon ourselves to put in an auxiliary system. The Hampton Inn loves the idea because this helps their firefighting as well. And any other development around opening up to any other fire department. This has been well thought out, well planned, and over-engineered. And by the way, I'm a state certified firefighter. And I was on the department for 12 years. And we have just gone way beyond anything that was required. This facility would be approved without the independent water system, in my opinion. It would be approved without the municipal system if we had our own well and had the pond for fire. But we have redundance. So, thank you, and I look forward to your decision.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Novak, you're my last remonstrator.
Randy Novak, 7,000 West, 125 North LaPorte. I just want to say that the difference between the water superintendent and the fire chief is they're not on the payroll. Everybody that has spoke here as an expert has a financial benefit that they're going to get out of doing this project. With that said, no one is objecting to the variance. Allow the variance with the same restrictions you put on it last time, that the local authority has jurisdiction. The thing that they're not telling you, the hotel that he talks about, the top floor, the water shuts off when you have a fire. Something happens, the water pressure drops. It's a fact. Portofino's is closed because the water pressure has dropped out there. It's a problem. The redevelopment commission that I chair is working on this. We've got grants in for a water tower. The mayor's in talks with people about doing a system out there. There's plans to fix it, but that's what we just want to make sure that everything is covered and it's done right. So because there's a lot of moving parts to this, and everybody, it's life safety. That's what it's about. It's not about financial gain. It's about life safety.
I have a question.
Yep.
So I'm new to this board, so what happened 20 plus years ago that we're still talking about and it's not done? From the city of LaPorte?
20 years ago, there wasn't the business and residents and everything out there. So there was enough water flow probably at that time. The system was never designed the way it was originally planned to be. It wasn't supposed, excuse me, I'm talking. All right.
Well, Mr. Novak's addressing the board, and if anybody else wants to speak, they can address the board, not the person at the podium.
The plans that I seen, and with talking with the superintendent from the water department, that's the information that I got. And this all came about because being the chairman of the Fire Chiefs Association, one of the Cool Spring, they had a fire, I think, out on the island. Cool Spring Fire Department stopped at one of the hydrants on Johnson Road. The other part you don't understand is 39 North goes out here. They teed off of that and go down Johnson Road. So all the way down Johnson Road, if you open those hydrants, it drains, it takes them off of this. So it's like having a garden hose stretched out there and then you teed off of it and went this way. You open this up, you're not gonna get much out there. They filled their truck, and the superintendent, previous one to him, God bless him, came over to these guys and just ripped them a new one. Said, what are you trying to do? You're gonna cause all kinds of problems. You can't just open a hydrant along here. So we had a sit down in Andy's office, Chief Snyder, and said, well, what's the problem? They're filling a hydrant. Then he explained the system. And it's like, holy crap. That's when all this started. And that's why we've been working on this, trying to get this fixed since then. No one is against this project. Absolutely no one is against this project. I'll be the first one to cheer this thing on. My concern is only with the water. And that's why you can give the variance tonight, because as he stated, this board has limited, that's what you're doing. But with the restrictions that the local jurisdiction has to approve the fire suppression systems.
So how long
as you did a year ago.
How long is it gonna take to get it where it needs to be, where they can start the development? Are we talking years, 5 years, 10 years? What are we talking?
I have no idea. If 30, I guess, without getting into the whole, what 39 North does in this whole thing now, 39 North bonded this and put in the water system and is charging these residents out there money for the water out there. They buy it wholesale from the city of LaPorte. They're not, where are they at in this game? Where are they at to say, hey, we need to fix this out there? So, and the hydrants right now give a false sense of security to these people. So, that's my thing. I just care about the water. I care about life safety. I'm not against Mr. Arnold. I'm not against this project at all. And I just want to get it fixed. If it wasn't, the redevelopment commission's spending money to apply for grants, and we're using our personnel to do this. So we're working at it. So, all I got.
Okay, Andrew.
I don't know what to say at this point. I mean, it's quite clear that regardless of anything that these remonstrators have said, that this is not a political issue, it certainly is. Because you're talking about a failure by the city 20 plus years ago that's now being foisted upon my client or my clients that have the ability to enter into a $14 million project that's going to bring 100 construction jobs, 50 full-time nursing jobs, let alone support staff, anything else like that. And you've got these local folks, which I completely respect. I respect Mr. Novak. I respect Chief Snyder. I respect all of them. But when we've got the state fire marshal and the Indiana Department of Homeland Security signing off on what this is, and then we've attempted to get Center Township to sign off on it, but we've been told, no, we're not signing off on it without a water tower. There's nothing in this variance that requires a water tower. And I understand the previous variance that was granted requiring local support, but when it becomes a political issue that this is being used as a pawn to facilitate the development of a water tower, and now you've got, oh, well, we're doing this, we're doing that, and the city's gonna shut the water off in 2025 or whatever else. Okay, great, but that doesn't help this here. And we've got over $1 million invested at this point that is gonna go away, and this project will never happen if this variance is not granted. And I understand this board has the ability to require certain jurisdictional requirements, but when those jurisdictional requirements respond to me in my requests or refuse to respond and then say, no, we're not talking about this. This is a no-go because there's no water tower. I can't see how that is anything other than a political issue here. And that's a problem because politics don't play a role in the requirements and the elements under the granting of a variance under the JZO. There's 5 elements. We've identified them. We have experts that have testified as to such, that this meets and exceeds the requirements. And I understand what Mr. Novak and Chief Snyder are saying, that they're not going to plug into a pond. Well, then how is the state fire marshal approving this? How is Indiana Department of Homeland Security approving this? There have to be fail-safes in place. And again, this is a redundancy system. There's 2 things working together here, and they are trying to make the best of a situation that will allow for development out there, to allow for facility to care for our aging population, which LaPorte County is much above the median at this point. All you have to do is look at the ranks of the Bar Association to see that. The number of attorneys that are above the age of 60 versus the number of attorneys that are below the age of 40. That's all you have to look at. So this is a need. And again, we would ask that this board would grant the variance without restrictions, but then if the restrictions are put in place, which I believe this board has the ability to do, that then the local jurisdictions or whomever that we need to contact for approval actually engage in good faith and don't just say, no, there's no water tower, we're not doing it. There's nothing in here about a water tower. And again, we have a water tower on the ground to the tune of 1 million gallons. So we would ask that this variance be granted. Thank you.
Thank you. Remonstration is over. Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Ready for a motion?
Well, I would have your questions first if we have
I don't
any.
have any more questions, I don't think.
There's been a lot of discussion about sign-offs by local authorities. Do we have any record of what that previous motion was?
Believe I made it. I believe I was requesting all the local authorities involved in this to sign off on it. I think it was Center Township, it was the trustees, it was whatever governing body touched that part of it to make sure that they were all on board with it before anything goes forward.
Okay.
I applaud the effort. I'm agreeing with everybody in this room tonight. We have to absolutely do something. I'm a part of those figures in that state right there that hits that number over 65. But I'm also, my heart tells me too with the fire service, and I've got 38 years invested in that as well. And I listen to what the chiefs have to say here, near and dear. And I do believe it's the right thing to do, and I do believe we need to have the authorities signed off by all parties involved with it. It's not making it political, I'm making it a safe issue. And I'm the one that's got to think about that when I'm out on this board and my kids are going to be up here and that. That's where we have to think about what made it safe. Not that we sat here tonight and made a decision because we thought it might have been the right way to go, when we know in our heart it's got to be signed off and people got to have the input to it. So,
If I may, Madam President, I want to make sure the board's clear, and this is a little different than what we normally encounter, but in section 14.08C, that covers nursing homes and senior assisted living, there's a sentence, I just want to make sure the board's aware, and I'm going to read it to you because it's short. The nursing home or senior assisted living facility shall be inspected by the fire department and the county board of health for compliance with the fire code and health code requirements prior to occupancy. So that's a little different than what they're asking for here. So the distinction is, this says it can be built, but nobody can move in there till the local fire and local health department say it's okay. So that's already built into the code, but it's built into the code for after the building's constructed, which is a little backwards, but I didn't write this section, I swear. So, but I would just want to sure it's a different thing. So that limitation is there, but at the end of construction, not as a condition of the variance. You can do both. I just want to make sure the board's aware of that.
you're right.
Yeah, if there are no other questions of the board, then I will entertain a motion.
Well, I'll give it a shot as I did last time then, Melissa. I'm going to echo all the same sentiments I said earlier and agree that the petition should be granted with the stipulations that all parties involved in this thing still have their input to it, and that's what the same stipulation I had last time. That's what the trustees or any governing body that touches this project.
May I ask for clarification, because there seems to be some confusion in
I wish I had
the design.
Who that is specifically?
Part, or the design
I wish I had a list of who that was specifically, because I said last time was I had it with me, but I believe it was trustees are involved, Center Township are involved.
Because it's like Doug said, the local fire has to inspect for compliance with the fire code prior to my office issuing a certificate of occupancy. So you have multiple jurisdictions involved. You've got the state fire and DHS providing the state releases on the designs, plus the engineer stamps.
Right.
Then you have the local fire jurisdiction signing off on the inspection prior to issuing certificate of occupancy. So even if this board were to grant approval of this tonight, and the designs were approved by the state, if it's built and it doesn't perform during the inspection, no certificate of occupancy will be granted. I just want to make sure that's clear.
It's clear, and I do appreciate that, and I still think I want the input put in up front.
Well,
Mr. Hogan, if I may, I do have
we're in the middle of a motion.
I apologize, I've got some clarification with regards to the previous minutes and findings of fact, but
Procedurally, it's got to have to.
my apologies.
I think we need specificity on who. For example, with all deference to Chief Snyder, they have a mutual aid agreement. The city of LaPorte at this point doesn't have jurisdiction. So that's going to be Center Township that's going to make that call on fire. And if you want a supplement on water, well, that's not 39 North Conservancy District. Unless you want to, I think you can add qualifications on your motion for other entities, but I think we need to identify who they are or should be. And the timing, whether that should be prior to the issuance of a building permit, and I would recommend that by the building commissioner. That way, the building commissioner is clear on what checklist he has to have before he issues a building permit.
I'm trying to remember without having the in front of me. I know we're in the middle of trying to make the motion. Does she have it?
She's got
You have
something
it?
here. So what I see here, local state agencies and departments whose jurisdictions will determine how said structure and complexes are to be built. That's the terminology of the motion. So as we're sitting here and discuss this, between the mutual aid agreement between the city of LaPorte with Center Township, I would also say that since there would also be 39 North Conservancy, and I'd actually recommend Mr. Warner's office with being his impact, how he's impacted by the water system.
Those four entities would be in addition to and along with.
At issuance of a building permit, or?
From the upfront, from the planning stage of it all.
So for the building permit, okay.
I said it was Center, LaPorte.
39 North.
Yes, it is.
So Center Township Fire Department, LaPorte, City of LaPorte, the 39 North Conservancy, and
City Water.
the City Water Superintendent.
Yep.
Okay, can I repeat that back as I'm drafting this?
Please.
So Center Fire, City of LaPorte Fire, 39 North Water, and City of LaPorte Water.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
That's Center Township Fire.
Thank you for the paraphrasing. That's pretty much the motion.
So I have a amended motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Aye. It's gonna carry.
Okay. Madam President, if I may, just for clarification purposes, you have been presented with a letter from 39 North expressing support for this. So they would be off the table with regards to anybody checking off on this based upon what has been submitted on the record tonight.
Motion's made, passed. The letter is part of the record, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, petition number 3 this evening is a petition for, I feel like, should we take a bathroom
Minute break. Yeah.
Let's take, before we get into that, let's take a 5-minute break. Please. We're gonna be back here at 7:50. Significantly.
We gotta get the scores.
Is Anthony on? Ashley, he's ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Thank you. So petition number 3.
Yeah, you wish.
3 rather. Again, just to remind everybody, it was tabled. We removed it from the table at the beginning of the meeting. And we're just going to listen to the new information or any outstanding issues from the previous meeting. So this petition for special exception for Open Road Renewables LLC and Monroe Power LLC, represented by counsel Anthony Novak of Newby Lewis, Kaminsky and Jones LLP, for creation of a utility substation, specifically a battery energy storage system facility for the property located at 6044 South State Road 104, Walkerton, Lincoln Township, zoned ag, on a total of 71.15 acres. Is notice still adequate for the record?
Right, there's no, it was not necessary renotice because we gave
We asked for additional information.
Yep. Yeah, I want to clarify, tonight is the answer to the board's request for additional information.
Yes, thank you. And Anthony, I understand that congratulations are in order?
Yes, much.
Yeah. Yep. 3 weeks ago, we had a baby girl. So she's healthy, and my wife's healthy, which is a good thing. Don't have very much sleep, but I'd rather have a healthy baby than sleep. So thank you.
Awesome.
But I was able to get off dad duty for a little bit so that I could present tonight rather than hand it off to my partner. And as Doug indicated, I just want to remind everyone of where we left off last month, talk about what we've done since then, and I'm going to turn it over to Cyrus, who is going to elaborate on what we have done since then and the conditions that we are going to impose on this project. So at the end of last meeting, this matter was tabled. Some of you guys asked for certain things. Dwayne specifically said he wanted to make sure there was enough information without having additional contingencies, and asked if board members could submit questions. Glenn asked that we submit information related to an emergency management plan, training, and other things to make the project safe. Melissa ultimately asked if we could make that information available to the public. We've done just that. So what Cyrus is going to elaborate on tonight, we received questions from the board and from Mike Poland. We reached out to some community members, some of which attended last month's meeting, to provide them additional information and address concerns. That includes Mark Parkman. You may remember he was there at the last meeting on behalf of Farm Bureau. I talked with him today, provided him some information. It also includes Randy Novak in his capacity as a former fire chief of the Michigan City Fire Department and current chairman of the LaPorte County Fire Chiefs Association. One of the biggest things we did on May 9th was we hosted a meeting with various fire and EMS personnel, where we had an expert on energy storage systems from American Fire Technologies discuss fire safety related to these systems and address any questions. There was good attendance, but some people to know, Jeff Hamilton from County Hazmat and the Assistant Chief of Walkerton Fire Department, Bill Duttlinger, Chief of Lincoln Township Fire Department, Kevin Bloom of Pleasant Township Fire Department, and also Jim Pressel, State Rep. And then finally, Melissa asked that we have information for the public, and we created an informational packet that each of you have in front of you that have 3 sections to it. It's got a question and an answer. So basically, we took all the questions that we received, and each time we received them, we updated the website. So the packet was being updated a few times. I think it got updated a matter of maybe 4 or 5 times. It then has 5 conditions that we've asked that we will be able to voluntarily impose on ourselves prior to a building permit being issued. And not to go into all of them, but take, for example, number 1. Our first one is an emergency management plan. And we have the terms of what the plan will include. But as part of our request, we will be submitting that to the county, and then prior to the county actually issuing the permit, they will have the final sign-off, the final discretion to say, yes, everything is there that we do in fact need to see. So that's just one of the 5. So as I indicated, that was available to the county's website. But at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Cyrus to elaborate on that additional information.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay, and can you see my screen?
Oh, we can see it now.
Okay, great. Well, thanks very much. And as mentioned, I'm going to skip forward to kind of the new items and responses to questions. So you've seen a few of these slides, the fiscal benefits of the project, the location of the project at the bottom of that 71 acres, not the whole 71 acres. And a close-up showing mostly space, including the stormwater area and all the space between the battery containers, all the setbacks around it, the landscaping, et cetera. So a couple of updates. I had mentioned during our presentation last month that we had done wetlands studies, and we were waiting for the Army Corps of Engineers to basically affirm or confirm our analysis. They have done that now. We have provided that to the county. And as Anthony mentioned, we did, with a lot of input from county staff, EMS, firefighters, and members of the public, and LaPorte Hazmat, we agreed to 5 permitting conditions. We discussed some of these last month during the hearing: a decommissioning plan, which would include a financial bond, annual EMS training for the life of the project every year, detailed criteria for a site-specific emergency management plan, as Anthony mentioned, the approval of which would be a condition of getting the building permit, installation of an on-site water tank or tanks accessible to local EMS and firefighters, and a Knox box for easy entrance for EMS and firefighters. I did also want to just share something else that happened since the last hearing, and this has been happening for a while, but there's a precipitating event I want to share with you. Over the last several years and projected looking forward, Indiana is going to be short of capacity, and that's not unique to Indiana, but it's something that's happening nationally as temperatures rise, electric demand rises, and old power plants start to be mothballed. And capacity here is a technical term. It's a grid service that are provided by resources like battery energy storage systems or natural gas plants, and they help maintain the grid stability and reliability, especially during high demand, high heat or outage events like heat wave storms. On April 28th, about 2 weeks after the hearing, the Mid-Continent Independent System Operator, MISO for short, announced the results of an annual capacity auction they do, and the area that encompasses Indiana of the grid, the price jumped 4,600%.
This is outside the scope of what we agreed we're going to do tonight, Madam President.
I'm happy to skip it if you don't want to hear about this. I
think as long as it's going to be the new information that not revisiting the information that we've already heard.
Well, we're going to cover the 5 points the board asked for, but this is not a reopening of evidence. I want to make sure we're clear on what it is we're doing. With all due respect to the presenter, the board has specific questions, and that's what we're going to tackle tonight.
5 points.
We're not going to reintroduce new evidence.
We can move forward on that slide. I thought it was informational, but that's no problem. We'll move forward.
Okay, and I did have a clarification on the ownership, but let me know if it's appropriate to talk about the long-term ownership. It was a question from a board member at the end of the presentation last month.
I do think that's appropriate.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that while this project is adjacent to NIPSCO's substation in NIPSCO's service territory, Monroe could alternately be owned by other Indiana public utilities like Duke or AEP or IPNL, et cetera. As I mentioned on a couple slides ago, the product that we're providing, which is capacity, is very important to keeping prices down and having grid reliability. And all of these utilities, NIPSCO, Duke Energy, AEP, Indiana Power and Light, they all have active RFPs out right now looking for capacity from resources like battery storage. So all of that is kind of a moot point until we get an approval from this board, and that is an early gating item before we can go and finalize discussions with the NIPSCOs and the Dukes. But I did want to clarify that this is not, somehow only a NIPSCO project. It really could be a number of different utilities that could own this project. But of course, the early first step is this board's vote. So with that, I think I will see if you have any questions and really appreciate the time and consideration.
No, I think we can continue.
That I think covers the topics that we were presenting on.
Yeah, and I can tell you just to clarify. So the 5 conditions that we're willing to impose are rather in depth. The Q&A is rather in depth. But in the interest of time, Doug just indicated that, there was information that you guys wanted to receive. So we certainly are happy to hear and talk and clarify these things. But we've submitted this information, but we want to answer whatever additional questions that you all have.
Is it appropriate to get into technical?
Yes, please.
All right. So looking at the question and answer sheet that you've provided, I'm going to jump down to the lessons from the Surprise Arizona Best Fire in 2019. You did give some details here that seems in line with part of the recommendations. One of the biggest things that they mention is cell-to-cell cascading and ventilation. Mm-hmm. How is that incorporated into this design?
Sure, happy to answer that. Basically, first off, the facility that you're describing is a facility where humans walk into the facility. So they open a door and they enter. And that was critical to the failure in Surprise, Arizona. And since that facility, which was installed in 2017 or 18, the industry, and even before we get to the design of Monroe, the industry has moved away from those types of containers into these containers that we're proposing here, which essentially are open from the outside. There's no entrance into the container, which introduces all kinds of risk when you open a container that might have, emissions and things like that in it because of a fire. So that's basically what happened in Surprise, Arizona. And step one is redesigning all of these containers to avoid that type of possibility. And for the same reason, move away from building-based designs where, instead of containers, you actually have batteries in buildings. So this is neither of those, it's container-based. The other failures in Surprise, Arizona were really education, training, and information related. The EMS, for example, did not know that there was a battery storage project out in Surprise, Arizona. So when they arrived to respond to this emergency, they had no idea what they were responding to. That is completely 180 degrees different than our proposal here and our approach here. And in fact, I don't think any battery storage project in the country would ever be permitted without something, much more robust like we're presenting here. So those are two of the key responses to, what are the lessons learned from that event.
So more on the technical design, just to be clear, the cell-to-cell spacing and open ventilation from cell to cell is naturally more open in the industry now versus what would have been provided 5 years ago?
No, again, the cell-to-cell spacing was not a central issue of that emergency. Basically, there was battery failure, and there were gases released, and because there was no training where they opened the container when they should not have approached the container, and that created, the incident. So it's almost entirely a combination of the fact that there's a door to open and the fact that the EMS folks had no education, knowledge of the facility even. So that really created a perfect storm. And of course, this is completely different than that.
Okay.
So I think before we check for remonstrators, I'd like to invite State Rep Pressel up. I think he has some additional information. He is sitting on our legislature currently and has some information that maybe we'd all like to hear before remonstrators.
I do. So,
and I have to ask you to please state your name and address for the record.
Jim Pressel, State Representative, District 20, 1772 North Lofgren Road, Rolling Prairie, Indiana, 46371.
Thank you.
It's been a busy night here tonight. You've heard a lot about safety. You've heard a lot about codes and restrictions. And we're hearing about new technology. I don't know about you guys, but this is new technology to me. And I sat on utilities in the House 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we created Indiana's first energy task force. As Indiana moves into more renewable energies and new technologies, there's a huge need for stakeholders to be at the table, experts to be at the table, the public to be at the table, to voice an opinion on it, the state fire marshal to be at the table, to talk about what new technology we should be allowing, and at what capacities, what is the need for specific capacities, like the batteries, the proper amount of solar, the proper amount of wind, the proper amount of coal as it phases out. And you heard just a tip of MISO, and maybe you heard that in the first meeting. So MISO did forecast that there's going to be a demand uptick, right? So NIPSCO responded with that properly, saying we're going to continue Wheatfield for another 2 years as technology develops. So through this task force, we take all that into consideration. Currently, there's only 5 of these that exist in the state right now, the largest being of 20 megawatts, not very big. And the smallest, which is extremely just experimental, is 0.3. I'm going to point out that all 5 of those are owned and operated by regulated utilities. They're experimental still. We're still trying to figure this out. So this is like way above my pay grade. And I depend on what comes out of this task force and what comes out of all this testimony that then turns into legislation. through that task force, you guys just adopted, or the planning commission adopted just recently, some wind and solar stuff, and solar in particular. And that kind of was derived from, given the boilerplate from the state on what we think it should be, and then you make that local decision. So that came from that task force. That's legislation that came from there. What I'm going to tell you is, please don't get in front of the state. And then I'm going to back up just a little bit and say, in 6 years, my philosophy has been, and I've never been in front of this board, the commissioners, or any other board, I'm gonna stay in my lane. My job is to provide information, to be a conduit through the state agencies, and to provide the tools that you need to do your job here locally. This is the first time I've been in front of a commission or a board. I feel very strongly that because there are only 5 there, and this is calendared for September to be part of the task force, you need to pull back on the reins and wait to see what the General Assembly comes up with, or at least until September, and see what questions are brought before the General Assembly and that task force. So that task force is made up of not only legislators, we have Duke Energy, I believe, has a seat on that, the stakeholders that are there. So good things really are going to come from that in a good positive direction. So in doing a little bit of research, I was concerned about, have we talked to IDEM? Has IDEM been brought in? And they have not. So I'm encouraged to hear that at least Army Corps was brought in, because my report back from IDEM was, and I sent them the information that you guys had originally, and they said, just looking at it quickly, there's some mitigation issues here. So I'm glad that Army Corps concurs. I'm surprised that it's jurisdictional water there, but good to know we've got that far. DNR has never been contacted about this project. IURC has not been contacted about this project. I spoke with NIPSCO over the past week, and I'm glad they kind of clarified tonight that this would not be intended for only NIPSCO to make this purchase.
Right.
Because NIPSCO has had no communication with anybody here. Now, they've had an RFP out that was issued from MISO. So they may have looked at this project not knowing it was Monroe or whoever, because all they have is a MISO number. There's still a feasibility study that needs to be done before an interconnect can be done. They still need to go before the IURC, 6-month process. There's a lot of boxes left to check. I don't know that there's an urgency that this needs to move forward before we can give you good guidance and let you make good decisions based on a boilerplate template to where you can adopt an actual zoning ordinance that will pertain to these type of structures. So I would ask you to hold off and not get in front of what we're about to do, so you don't have to redo it. And I'd be happy to take questions.
So you said it's going to be up for the legislator in September?
It's calendar for the task force. I spoke to the chairman this afternoon. It is the last meeting, and it'll be in September. So that's just the task force. So when the task force is completed, either Representative Soliday, the chairman, or myself will be offering legislation to address these type of facilities.
And who's on the task force?
It's made up of 4 legislators, and then I think there are 6 stakeholders in it.
Is it
2 are governor appointments, and some of them are utilities. I think IURC has a seat on it.
okay? And you've talked it over with Republicans and Democrats, so there's buy-in, because we all know how things are operating right now. Which
So this is a task force.
Mhm.
So it's appointed by the governor. It's the stakeholders. So this is not a partisan issue whatsoever. It's not done by the General Assembly. The General Assembly said we need a task force because we need to see which direction we're going on this.
Okay.
That was a good question.
And I'm just going to say, I think that there have, excuse me, often been petitions in front of us that we make a decision at the local level, but still has state regulations that they need to meet in order for that project to move forward. So just because we make a decision to say we think the project could move forward doesn't mean that it's going to move forward, because they still have all those boxes that need checked from a state level. So
Yep.
with us saying yes or no tonight does not make it
Well, it kind of
mean that it's going to go.
Yes, you wouldn't have to check the boxes, but what I'm really trying to impress upon you, that we are going to create policy that directs this for you, right? So if you make a decision on it, you could be outside of that policy box.
Yeah, if I may, good example, which congratulations, board, you don't ask about septic nearly as much anymore, but there are septic regulations. It goes through the health department.
Right.
The commercial projects go down to the state and they look at the commercial projects for fire, design, et cetera. Those mechanisms are in place. And if, forgive me if I'm misquoting you, but my concern, a lot of times I'll tell the board, that mechanism or that protection's already in place downstate. My perception is none of those protections are in place downstate on this project. I use the word protections, but overseeing. We don't have overview because this is so new. So those comforts that I give you on most of the other projects we see do not quite yet exist on this project.
That is absolutely correct. It's almost like we dealt with nuclear compacts, very small nuclear modules, very new technology. We just, through that task force, developed policy around that based on what's safe, what's good, how many of these can we need. We don't want anybody to overbuild things and then not have a use for it. So there's a lot of what ifs out there just with the technology. And I guess what I'm asking is let us do our job before something like this happens. There's got to be a reason that there's only 5 of these and 20 megawatts, not very big. That's the largest one in the state. And they're all owned and operated by regulated utilities, not speculative developers that have come to town. So I red flag for me is if there's a tax abatement on this, why didn't it go to the council first? The only thing I can think of is if it went to the council, there'd be more public engagement. Because then it's going to have to go to the commissioners, more public engagement. So I just don't like, we kind of we've missed some process here. And I don't see the urgency that this needs to move right now. I just don't see it. Any other questions? Thank you for your time, and I appreciate you allowing me to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Okay, so are there any remonstrators with anything new this evening for this petition?
I'll say no, just because I did last one.
Well, you're gonna get
We're addressing
only the new information.
All new. All new.
we're addressing on.
It's 5 points.
5 points. All right.
5 points they presented tonight on the questions from the board, that's what you could speak on. Okay? Because I stopped them when they started introducing new things you saw me.
No, this is nothing, my name's Christopher Williamson, 4102 South, State Road 104, Walkerton, Indiana. Adjacent landowner to the farm in question. The scope of the Monroe Power Project, which is compared to last month's, has changed dramatically. NIPSCO has been taken out of the picture, where last month they were on the short list. That's new. Okay, that's way new.
You can address the answers to the questions that the board asked. So if it's in.
What questions did the board ask? The first ones?
This packet.
Yep, the very first
If it's in this
question.
packet, you can address it.
Okay, yes, got it.
And remember, you're gonna have 3 minutes. I mentioned it at the beginning of
You
the,
did, and everybody's had 11, but that's fine.
well, 3 minutes is what it is.
Actually, it appears that there's a possibility that Monroe or whoever is doing this isn't aware of the 345 line coming into the substation right now from New Carlisle. It's coming down 600 east right now. It's traveled probably about 18 miles so far. They asked if any special equipment would be needed in the event of emergency, page 1. And they said it handled like a Class A fire, although it is not a Class A fire because you don't just let it burn out. The last question on that one was, what do they do for fire suppression? And they have removed this fire suppression, and they reference a Tesla Megapack. that in July of 2021 in Australia, they had one where only 2 of the battery containers blew up, and they're proposing 108. It took 150 firefighters, 4 days, and 30 fire trucks to make it stop. And it was from one coolant leak, and it had where one lit another, but it was only 2, and it took 4 days and 150 firefighters to put it out. If you go to the second page, and they said who have they decided as a manufacturer, they're ultimately hoping that NIPSCO would do it, but they also said NIPSCO would make, or some other company would make the design, which you questioned. There is no design. Okay, it's all speculative, and procurement. So right now, it doesn't even appear that they're going to procure. They're just purchasing the land, getting the improvements, possibly offering the labor or whatever to do it, but they're wanting someone else to design it and procure all the equipment. And I suppose one of the most important things is the temporary storage of used batteries. That's huge. They say a sealed temporary storage bin, but it's not been specified on the current site plan. But yet on the current site plan, they get down to the nitty-gritty on how they're going to tie off the pine trees, how high up they're going to go before they put the ropes on. But they can't add one little rectangle where they're going to put storage of the used batteries. Why isn't it on there? It just doesn't make sense. In investigative, I mean, you really don't know, but they say the batteries will last about 10 years, but that's in Texas. Up here in this climate, they're averaging 4.9. So 108 semi-loads of batteries in 5 years, you could have 108 semi-loads full of batteries. And this is the first one, as far as Monroe, of this kind. They do solar fields. Okay, this appears to be the very first battery storage system that they're doing. And they are adjacent to an 11-acre parcel that is considered wetlands, and it's classified wetlands. To the south, their layout does say that they're going to do some deforestation still, and it still references another company called St. Joseph Phase 2, still has an option to purchase.
Thank you.
And thank you. And so I'm going to ask that you unanimously deny this petition this evening and revisit it after legislation goes through.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other remonstrators? Okay, hearing and seeing none.
If we could, I'd like to just address one thing, and then I'm going to turn it over to Cyrus and David on some more substantive things.
Thank you.
Certainly respect Representative Russell, but one thing to clarify is, the fact that we have not gone to council for an abatement because we're trying to avoid public engagement. We haven't gone to council because we don't have a permit to actually build the project. It's clearly not because of the fact that we're trying to avoid public engagement. So I do just want to clarify that. But at this point, I'll turn it over to Cyrus and David on some of the other points.
Thanks. I do want to try to address some of the Representative Pressel's comments. First off, I'm happy to hear that there's focus on this in a task force. This technology is not new. It is new in Indiana, but it is not new nationally. There's quite a bit of battery storage in other states, and Indiana, as indicated by every public utility that is a regulated public utility, putting out RFPs to be the owners of projects like Monroe. As a matter of fact, Duke Energy owns a lot of battery storage. NIPSCO actually has started to own battery storage. The oldest facility in Indiana is owned by Indiana Power and Light. And while the design is the less safe building-based design that we talked about, it's actually the same technology. It's lithium ion, and they've got now 8 years of experience with it. So it really is good to see the Indiana legislature engaging on this. There's always going to be an opportunity to improve, and we absolutely expect that we will see evolution in Indiana on statewide policy. That said, this is a land use question. And what we've put before the board here is not going to last forever. This project will die on the vine if a land use approval, which is a gating item, it's an early approval. A lot of the stuff like stormwater plan has to be finalized and approved, on the final design, for example. There's a lot of stuff, the tax abatement even would have to go through and be approved or not. So all of that, none of that can happen if this project just sits here and doesn't get a land use approval. And it does have a feasibility study from MISO. It has a system impact study from MISO. It has a facility study from MISO. It is on track with all 2019 MISO projects to get its interconnection agreement. So I think there's maybe some bad information out there, but the topic of NIPSCO, frankly, I can't talk to the certain issues with certain parties because of confidentiality provisions that I, maybe did not, wasn't as sensitive to last time I talked with this group. But I'll just say you can go out and look at the NIPSCO RFP. It's not a MISO RFP. It is a NIPSCO RFP. And in the RFP, it specifically requests battery storage that can come online in 2025. It's asking for large battery storage. In fact, they have a minimum size. So all of this goes away if we can't keep this project moving forward. And the first step is a vote to approve by this board. And I'll just say, if you look in the MISO queue for projects under development, there are not a lot of projects under development in LaPorte County. The tax revenue that goes to LaPorte County is limited to 2 projects, and they're both big, this project and one other. So to the extent that LaPorte County would like the revenue that comes from these projects in the next 5+ years, maybe to pay for a water tower, frankly, work with us here. We can make the project better. We can certainly work with the legislator to make the project better. But I think a lot of there's a lot of education that needs to happen on all fronts here on this type of project. So any specific questions, David, that you'd like to answer? I believe DNR was raised.
Yes, I'd be happy to do that briefly. My name is David Savage. Board members, appreciate your time this evening. I just wanted to speak briefly to some...
And David, I'm going to have to interrupt you and ask you to state your name and address for the record, please.
Glad to do that.
Thank you.
David Savage, 1105 Navasota Street, Austin, Texas, 78702. I just wanted to mention briefly that we have thoroughly vetted the project for environmental and natural resources constraints, as some of the information that's been provided to the county indicates. It is routine in our experience in Indiana and in other jurisdictions in the country that when we seek a land use permit or a land use decision, as we are this evening, and through this application, that we know that we may have other obligations, such as state environmental obligations through DNR or through IDEM. Those are usually vetted fairly thoroughly in advance, which we've done in this case, and don't think there are any significant issues. But if there are any requirements, we would obtain those from those agencies in due course prior to the start of construction. That is routine and would be done here. The fact that those minor authorizations, if any, haven't been obtained is just because we're at this point in the process of seeking the basic land use and zoning approval. Same thing for the IURC. That's a state, energy regulatory layer that can apply to the project, but just simply another layer that we will have to get through before we begin construction. Not a reason, in our view, not to consider the land use decision, which is really what's before the BZA this evening. So with all due respect to Representative Kressel, there's a task force-based study the subject. It may have good recommendations for jurisdictions in Indiana. We see those kinds of task forces and jurisdictions on a variety of issues across the country, and views evolve on how to treat different types of land use proposals, but there's no particular reason not for the BZA not to consider the information that's been put before it and allow the project to move forward in the process.
Thank you.
And if I could add one more, I mean, we've indicated these conditions. To the extent there's going to be further legislation as we move through this process, I mean, we did indicate previously that it's going to be at least 3 years before this would occur. And if something's going to happen in September, I mean, we're certainly happy to adapt to whatever legislation may be adopted. But again, this is kind of a threshold issue here, which is we need this step in the process of many to move this forward. And we would ask that you would give us that approval so we can move this forward and that this revenue can come to the county.
All right, so Mr. Novak called me when this first arose, rightly so, and asked me the question, what is this? Procedurally in front of the zoning board. And so I decided the best way to make the request would be through a special exception, because that's how we handle chemical plants, rifle ranges, things that when we drafted the code,
Don't fit.
we thought the board would want to look at it closely, more closely than normal. And that's exactly where we are here, because we had no ordinance in place and no regulations, but yet we have to handle and review this request. So you have the elements of a special exception before you, but I just want to remind the board why the category of special exception exists. And it exists because we have facilities that we want to take a closer look at than the normal zoning slots. Does that make sense? So you have your elements here. You can impose conditions on an approval, although since these mechanisms do not yet exist, I don't know what conditions to recommend for you to impose. So, all right.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the board?
So one thing, so right now we've got a lot of things going on with power companies and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Is there currently a power purchase agreement in the works or in place with anyone?
So we would not be able to get a power purchase agreement without a land use approval from this board. It's in reverse order. You must know as a counterparty, and in these agreements, you put down a substantial security or risk to securitize the agreements. All of those things, the decision to enter into a contract with Duke or NIPSCO or whatnot, power purchase agreement, some of the late stage permitting items that the representative raised, all of those are contingent on knowing that you have a land use approval. And in fact, you could place conditions like you must get all of the things you need from DNR as a condition of your decision. But we would not be able to, and no one is going to have a power purchase agreement before they have land use approval. I will mention that in the condition 1, if you have that in front of you, it does reference a whole host of standards, federal standards, fire safety standards. We went through these at length with the EMS community locally, the fire community locally, and most importantly, that condition requires that the emergency management plan be approved by the county as a condition of the building permit. So to the extent that you wanted to see, you'll see a site-specific emergency management plan that addresses this volume of requirements. To the extent that you wanted to see something new or reflect something new in state law or regs, that could go in there, and we would not be able to get a building permit until you approve that. So just flagging that if you haven't looked at that condition closely.
Anything else?
Let's be clear. We have no emergency management plan because we're not sure how to draft one because we do not have adequate information, or I would have drafted one and put one in front of you. Okay? So let's not pretend we have information that we do not possess. You can put conditions in an emergency, and you can make an emergency management plan a condition of your approval. But I cannot give advice to you as to what should be in it, because we're relying completely on the petitioner for this information because there's no one in the county that has that information to provide us. So I'm not trying to sway the board's decision one way or another, but be careful if you do impose conditions, because I need to have the information to draft what you request. And there's very little information to work from outside of, now the petition's been very good about providing information. I'm not saying that. We don't have an independent source to draw from at the county level.
If I may, I could just answer a bit of that. You really want a final emergency management plan that is specific to the technology. A Tesla emergency management plan is going to look different than a different manufacturer, and therefore, this is a gating item. Land use decision pending approvals subsequently. Once you see the emergency management plan and are happy with it in a year or two. Until then, we can't build anything. So there's not a risk that we're going to be building this before you see a site-specific, technology-specific emergency management plan, and to your, every concern that you have is addressed. We can't build the project. So this is simply land use decision, discretionary decision, and the conditions here can really be, what governs the issues that are being raised.
Point of order, Madam President. I'm trying to give you legal advice. This is not a discussion.
Thank you. I think I will entertain a motion.
Well, let's all go ahead and give a shot at this thing. Given the light testimony, first of all, I want to say thank you for everybody that's done all the work on this, answering all the hard legs.
Is your mic on?
Putting all this together.
Is your mic on?
Especially thanks to Doug for everything he's done too. Yes. All right, and with the potential of looking out there for some type of a task force to meet and for us to get some adopted legislation, if you will, to come out of it, to help give us some guidance. And without putting this board into a position where we have to have duplication of effort and rehash this thing all over again, I'm going to suggest that we postpone this, table it, however you want to word it, to at least the October meeting and give the people a chance downstate to put something together, bring something back for us so we get some better clarification of what we want to have for it.
We have a motion on the floor. I'm sorry.
don't want clarification on what that really means.
Get a second for discussion and do it.
I'll have a
Second.
motion. All right.
Okay, now discussion.
If you'd like to tell us your additional information.
I just want to make sure I'm clear. So the task force is going to meet in September. The General Assembly will not have legislation until January.
No.
So that report will come from the task force. Legislation will be developed from that report, and then it's going to go through the process. So the process will be January through the end of April. So it won't become law until next July unless I ask for an emergency to be declared. Then it becomes law the day the governor signs it. So postponing it till October, there's nothing I can give you. Postponing it indefinitely, table
I'm
it
not supposed to
indefinitely.
understood that, I apologize.
I just wanted to
Thought
make clarification.
From the
on
task
that
force, I'm
before
talking
you-
about something to resolve by the October meeting.
So what the task force does is takes all that testimony, takes all that information.
Understand.
And then from that, then we base the legislation on it. So there'll be testimony that you could possibly use, but I won't be able to give Doug anything to draft from. If that makes sense.
Thank you.
Just thanks for letting me clarify that.
So now, in order to revisit the motion, I just want to make sure we give the board adequate time to digest the information when it comes back to us to make an intelligent decision at it, again, without having to go through duplication of effort and having meetings like this where you can't get nothing accomplished. So, I guess, say I'll have it postponed to be determined.
You could either postpone it indefinitely. You could, the possibility, I'm not suggesting you do it either way, but you could deny it, but waive the 1-year reapplication requirement. So that way, in the event, if the stuff comes back and we have the information, they could reapply. But that is an option also.
So from a procedure standpoint, do we need to vote on the first one or can we modify the
Either
motion?
vote on it or amend it.
Okay, very good.
Need to amend it.
So we have an amended motion. Do I have an amended second?
I'll second the amendment.
Okay. All those in favor of indefinitely postponing, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
No.
Okay, it passes to postpone. Very good. Okay, let's move on to petition number 4. Petition for variance of developmental standards for Martin and Laura Cleland for converting a barn into living quarters and care for the elderly mother. This makes a second dwelling in the future to keep as a guest house. Property is located at 9601 North, 600 West, Michigan City, Springfield Township, zoned R1B on 9.129 acres.
Oh, I'm Marty Cleveland.
Hi, we're gonna wait and make sure your legal work is all situated. Who? What? Oh, I know.
Oh, yeah, that was not appropriate for him to say that. But I don't trust anything that Pressel says either, so. Let's keep.
Notice is adequate.
Thank you. If you would please state your name and address for the record.
Okay, Marty Cleveland, address 9601 North 600 West, Michigan City, Indiana, 46360.
My name is Laura Cleland, 9601 North 600 West, Michigan City, Indiana, 46360.
Okay, let's talk about this barn you want to convert. For whose mom's going to live in there? Very good. And how long do you think it will take for you to start? Should we approve this, how long will it take for you to convert the barn?
Hopefully within a couple months, 3 months.
Okay.
Maybe 4 at the most, I'm hoping.
Okay.
Yeah, quick question. Which barn are you gonna convert? The metal barn or the wood barn?
It's the wooden
Is your mic
barn.
on?
Building, it's, the main part has a concrete slab. The other part is on, yeah.
Thank you.
And what is your plan to change that over again, please? Just gonna tear it all down and start over, basically?
Pardon me?
You can tear it all down and start over, or?
No, the actual part on the lean-to part is gonna be taken off and rebuilt, because that I intend on putting a kitchen and bathroom in, because it is a dirt floor still, and that'll have, concrete, of course, and right now it doesn't have a good foundation around it.
Okay.
The rest of it is already a good concrete base with a good foundation.
And then once all this is done, you wanna keep it for a future guest house?
Yeah.
Such as for what and why?
Pardon me?
Why? Just a guest house for just yourself, relatives?
Actually, our son is a disabled military veteran, and he comes and stays with us for approximately a month at a time. And that would be some place for him to reside in after the mother-in-law's passed.
With no intention to make it a rental or anything like that?
No intention for a rental, no.
Do we have any remonstrators this evening for this petition? Anybody either for or against the petition?
You think?
If there are no further questions, I will entertain a motion.
Go for it.
I would like to make a motion that the petition for variance of developmental standards be granted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Congratulations, your motion passed.
You're gonna get to know them.
Yeah.
Petition number 5 this evening is a petition for variance of developmental standards for Ricky Lee Gillum for placement of a shipping container to be used for storage. The property is located at 1045 North, 600 East Mill Creek, Wills Township, zoned ag on 2 acres.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rick Gillum.
Let's make sure your legal work is ready.
Sir, did you get green cards back from the post office?
No.
Notice is adequate.
Thank you. If you would then state your name and address for the record.
My name is Rick Gillum. I live at 210 E Street in LaPorte. The property is at 1045 North, 600 East Mill Creek. And I just kind of needed some kind of storage right away because they're selling the house where I'm living and there's nowhere to rent. So I'm trying to put that together out there on that property.
So do you intend to use the shipping container to store materials so while you build something out there, or?
For everything, pretty much. But I'm putting a cottage out there. A little cabin.
So will the storage container eventually go away once you build the cottage?
I plan on keeping it. It's movable. I mean, it's nothing stationary.
How big of a storage container are we looking at?
20 foot.
They have photos.
8 by 20.
Sharing. Do we have any remonstrators this evening for this petition? Any remonstrators for or against? Additional questions from the board?
You're not living in this thing, are you?
No, it's just for storage.
How long has it been there?
About 3 weeks.
How long have you owned the property?
About 3 weeks, a month. I just purchased it because we've been trying to find a place to rent. There's nowhere to rent. I found the property, I purchased it. They sold the house. Now I gotta find a way to get a cabin on it to live in it. And that's why I needed that storage so I could store everything in it until we can get the cabin situated.
And how soon do you think you're gonna build? Start,
The
like
cabin
right
is
away
a Yoder-
construction?
It's a 14 by 40 building that's already on the property. I have been given a variance.
From whom?
Where I got the permits, they're giving me a hardship variance on it, the cabin.
Would that be us?
That would be them. You have to file for that. I have a microphone.
I have no idea. I know I gotta have a place to live and there's nowhere to go. I mean,
Rick, where did you get your permit? In
from
this building?
Upstairs, yeah, upstairs.
And-
For the little building.
And
And then I told her I was living in it and she said it's not big enough.
Right.
That I don't have a choice. There's nowhere
So-
for me to rent.
So I think, and I'm gonna ask our attorney, I think we might need to re-advertise this as a modified petition because the size of it would need an additional variance. And that is not advertised here
Yeah,
for tonight's meeting.
Right, I have no idea.
So it's a sticky legal one, but I think, am I right, we need
Yes.
to re-advertise for next month?
Yeah, because there was only advertising for the shipping container.
Right.
I think we should just act it on the shipping container.
What's that?
I think we should just act on the variance in front of us.
You could do that.
Sure, I just, my concern is I don't want him to have to do the fee again and come back for the,
He's gonna have to.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably have to, I guess. I don't know. I'll
sounds
have to
that
go
way.
and talk to them,
okay.
but
Then I stand corrected, we'll just go with the petition in front of us. So I've looked for remonstrators, there are none. Are there additional questions of the board?
I just would like to make a comment that we're not setting these permanently in the county.
No.
and we've kind of made it part of our, I don't know what you want to say, but
Well, I
mean,
have a note.
that being said, I'd like to make a motion that we grant a variance for him to use this container for 2 years, and it's to be removed from the property.
Okay.
Okay, so that could aid you in your
Better than I-
construction. That's my motion.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second for the shipping container to be on the property for 2 years. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
You do want to go talk to the building department again,
Okay.
please.
I will.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Okay, number 6 this evening is a petition for variance of use for Nathan and Amy O'Brien for running a landscaping business and to construct a building to run the business in. The building for now to keep stock on site. This property is located at 4234 North, 900 West, Michigan City, zoned R1B on 10 acres.
Notice adequate.
Thank you. If you would please state your name and address for the record.
Nathan O'Brien, 10397 West Elson Drive, Otis, Indiana. I purchased this property last year. I've been in the landscaping industry for 25 years and I've been afforded the ability to start my own business. So I'd like to use this property to start my own nursery for the long term, but also to hold stock and material for my own personal use. It will not be a retail facility by any means. Eventually, I mean, just depends on how well the business goes over the next year or so. I do plan on constructing a pole barn for material and eventually long term, maybe the wife and I will build a house on the property as well. But that's not in any time in the foreseeable future, unless I get
So
real
you're
big.
basically looking just to build a pole barn. What size?
Maybe 20 by 40.
And it'd be on the location where you had it marked off with the stakes?
Where is that? Where it will be?
Yeah.
No, I did not.
Property?
I have not marked out anything other than the driveway on that
That's the
property.
drive?
Yes.
We've seen this, that.
Do you have a,
Basically want to put a business there with a pole barn and no residents right now.
Yeah, correct.
and he's not, since you're not going to have people coming on site, customers, you're going to have deliveries though?
Yes.
Things of that nature?
Wholesale deliveries. Yes.
So just to make it official, what kind of hours of operation would you?
I usually work 10-hour days, 6 days a week.
So starting at 6 a.m.?
Sure.
Well, if there's no customers coming to the business.
I'm just wanted to cover, my intent was to cover the bases. So if there were deliveries and things, that
Oh.
traffic is going to come in and out.
Okay.
That was where my intent was. If that's okay with the board.
Yeah, it'd have to be.
When you say wholesale deliveries, what are we talking about? Are we talking 53-foot trailer? Are we talking box truck? Dump
Both.
Truck? Okay.
Eventually, I'd like to be buying my own semi-loads of trees and plants. So yeah, semi-load of 53-foot trailer, correct?
Okay.
How soon do you want to start construction on this?
I have the driveway permit, so as soon as I can. Well, let me put the brakes on that. I will not be receiving any plant material until I can get a well dug. The well's I need the barn before I get the well, so it's still a ways off. So for right now, it's mainly just to keep my trucks and trailers out of my own driveway in my home.
I understand that. Okay, do we have any remonstrators this evening for this petition?
Oh, I'm not changing the story.
No, the storage is in there is different, okay. What do you have that you have to store out there?
I have 2 trucks, 2 trailers, track machine, skid steer, random stone.
Well, his next question is going to be, is 20 by 40 large enough?
Well, I wouldn't be storing any of that inside the barn. The only thing that'd be in the barn would be mainly just tools and burlap and rope and
and I'm sorry to have said it the way I said it. The story changed, but what you said, brings to mind, we have a home next to it.
Right.
We have to respect that, so what are we going to do to make this look, as pristine as it can to the neighboring home?
Well, my business has grown because I make everyone else's properties pristine. If my landscape business looks like a riffraff coming in and out of there, I'm not going to be getting much business.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the trailers are going to
Storage of stuff.
The
Equipment.
I would hope that it would be as neat and put together as the places that I'm working at. There you go.
Nice.
Plus, just the logistics of a landscaping business. I mean, you can't have stuff laying around everywhere. It just gets in the way.
I almost feel like this one we need to look at again, where you could actually come in and show us what you want to do, rather than just say, I'm going to do it on this. And all we have is an empty lot and a home next to it, and a promise to make it look nice. But if we have a layout that says, I'm going to put the trucks in the trailer here, I'm going to put the drive here, the barn's going to be here, then we have a better idea, and the neighbor has a better idea of what to expect. Does that make sense?
Well, the only neighbor is the filter factory that's next to me. The other is, there is another neighbor adjacent diagonally, but they don't have a line of sight.
Okay. We usually like to see a layout. We
Okay.
really like to see something other than. Right?
Generally.
I have to trust this gentleman for telling me that it's going to look as good as the properties he landscapes. I agree, your business is all about perception.
Thank you.
Is there a name for this business?
O'Brien Landscapes?
Are you going to put a sign up?
Yes.
How large?
Probably. I wouldn't say it's any bigger than 10 feet. Well,
Like 10 feet wide?
yeah,
And how tall?
maybe 3-4 feet, just big enough for the
Are you going
name
to
to
put
be
lights
seen.
on it?
No.
Okay.
I'm looking more as like a piece of etched wood or something like that, not a
Neon
blinking
light.
street sign or something. Free trees.
An LED.
Match the blue lights on the other road.
You're right.
Okay, I have asked for remonstrators. There were none. Are there any further questions of the board? And if not, I will entertain a motion.
It's okay. I'll make a motion just to approve it. Do it what you say you're gonna do, make it look good. Done.
So
Sign?
operating
Yeah,
hours?
With your sign.
Yeah.
You say you're putting a light on the sign or not?
No.
Just a sign.
I'm gonna say a not to exceed 4x10 sign with the operating hours of 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Saturday.
Well, our trucks will line up till, not line up, but be returning
time
anywhere from
would you
6 to 7 o'clock at night.
What's the
6.
latest?
I'd say 8 at the very latest.
6 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Hours of operation.
There you go.
All right. And Monday through Saturday is appropriate?
Yes.
Okay. Can we include that in your motion?
So done.
Okay. So we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Petition number 6 this evening is a petition for variance of use. I'm sorry, we just heard that one. Gonna be a long night.
David.
Petition number 7 this evening is a petition for variance of developmental standards for David and Teresa Legros for construction of an accessory structure, pole barn rather, to the side and in front of the home with a front setback of 7 feet. Property is located at 1374 South Marquette Street, LaPorte, Scipio Township, zoned R1B.
Notice is adequate.
Thank you. If you would, please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Dave LaGrosse. It's actually 1371 South Marquette. I think on the minutes it had a different address.
Oh.
That's correct. It's the same odd side of the street as yours.
It is, I was gonna say, we're,
Well, that's when I stopped and talked to your neighbor. She didn't know what the hell I was talking about, trying to put a barn in her front yard, so.
okay. I did want to thank you for your nice drawing.
Yes.
Is it large enough?
Yes. I looked at it, I walked it over, it looks good.
And the structure is for storage only?
Storage only, correct.
Okay.
David, when do you plan on construction starting on this?
I would like to start like tomorrow, but it's just the idea of getting some people, together that can do it, or to hire a contractor that isn't 3, 4, 5, 6 months out. So as soon as I can find somebody to start, or some of the guys I work with, if we have any time, we're gonna get started as soon as we can.
Sure. It does, it's very nice.
Are there any remonstrators this evening for this petition? Anybody for or against this petition? Additional questions from the board? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I'll give you one. Petition for Dave and Teresa Legros to construct the accessory building pole barn be granted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Good luck.
Good luck.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You guys got a tough job.
Thanks.
Petition number 8 this evening is a petition for variance of developmental standards for Sherry Schoaf to split a parcel in two. Primary parcel will retain 200 feet of frontage, and new parcel will have 90 feet of frontage instead of the 200 minimum required. The property is located at 1656 West Springville Road, LaPorte, Springfield Township, zoned R1B on 10.556 acres.
I got it.
Hi, Sherry Shove, 16.
We're gonna wait for the attorney to tell us all your legal work's ready.
No adequate.
Thank you. So if you would then state your name and address for the record.
Sherry Shove, 1656 West Springville Road, LaPorte, Indiana, 46350.
Wow, this is a lot of acreage. So we're gonna split off the house and sell off the rest.
Yes, I don't need all that property for little old me.
Well,
let's see. I'm gonna get your
yeah.
So that's her, like that. This shows the drive.
Sherry, there was a mobile home out there at one point. Is that true?
There's still a mobile home.
Is it still there?
I have talked to prospective buyers and they said they would be responsible for removing that unless I hire the people next door demolishing trailers over there at Shady Grove, and I might hire them to take care of that problem.
Either way, though, we think that trailer's going to come out, correct?
Oh yes, most definitely.
I feel like.
And then what's she gonna do with the rest?
So we're going to split it off and sell it. How many acres is going to stay with the house?
I'm gonna get rid of 8, and there's 10.55, so I'm only keep
couple.
Yeah, 2 or 3.
It's 10.55 total.
And she wants to split off 8.
And the new parcel is only going to have 90 foot of road frontage?
Yes.
Because
I had to keep 200 foot for myself. As it states. And
I like the way you think.
Isn't that? how it has to be.
But at the same time, I read this one and I said, oh, can we just make it a little more even?
Well, I thought it was a rule I had
It
to
is.
keep 200
Well,
foot.
that's one of the things we do.
Okay.
We may or may not grant your 90 feet, so.
All right.
Right.
I just don't need all that property for myself. I love to mow, but that's a bit much.
I understand that too.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any remonstrators tonight for this petition, either for or against it? Any remonstrators? Further questions from the board?
How dead set are we on that 90 feet?
What do you mean?
Narrowing up the 2.5 acres that she's leaving and make it more even and amicable for frontage?
Thinking now.
Like what, like 100 for each one? Is that what you're?
Well, we got 290 to work with. If you take it,
See what it is with the proper setback from the house on that side.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm trying to think proportionally how to put it and make it look right to be right.
You kind of need to know where her septic is.
Yeah.
Your mic's on, is it?
Glenn's right. You need to know where her septic field is if it's in the front.
You know where your septic field is?
And you're-
Down by the trailer's a new septic. It goes out towards the woods though.
Do you know where the septic for the house is located?
No, not right offhand.
Well,
I don't want to split your septic.
No, no. I kind of had a plan. If you'll see the front of the property, there's a telephone pole here and it follows back. And I want to try to keep that line on this telephone poles. And then after my property of the home, the back of it, they can have it all. The wooded area and all that can go.
so have you had a surveyor look at this at all?
I've called a few surveyors.
Okay, because they certainly would look at your septic and
Right.
make sure everything is
Right.
closed. No, not really. I'm okay with that, honestly.
She could probably do about 115 and be safe.
You know, you're not on mic. Thank you.
I'll do screen share. So the house is probably about 105 over.
Yeah, but not knowing where her septic's at,
Do you know where it is?
she said no. We've asked.
I hope be less than the 90.
Madam President, what if you do a range? That way when she is
Like no
able to
less
get a
than 90,
surveyor.
but not to exceed. I'm good with that.
How long have you had the property?
February of last year.
Survey. Where's survey ever go?
I'm really kind of inclined to say you probably need to get a surveyor out here, take a look at it.
Well, I've already, like I said, I've already contacted a couple gentlemen. And I will get it surveyed and probably appraised. I don't have a clue what the acreage is going for in that area, being it's
Let's
up and
see.
coming.
How would the board feel about her postponing the vote until she has a survey and can come back in
Might be beneficial.
so that we can make a decision?
Yeah, if I might add, ma'am, you probably want to get a survey and have a realtor look at it to decide how much furniture you should take, because that you're going to want to maximize your value.
Right,
Probably better than guessing right now tonight.
right, because I have no clue.
Yeah, I'd check it out
Told me
before.
8,000.
Once they make their decision, you're kind of,
15,000 acres.
they make their decision, you're kind of stuck with it. So I think you're better off getting a surveyor and a realtor looking at it and help you decide where you want that line to be. That'll make their decision easy.
Great, that sounds great to me.
Come back. So so I will entertain a motion.
Well, we'll make a motion. How long will it take you to get a survey and get it all done?
I don't know, one surveyor's price was way up here and the other one was way down here, so I was like, boy.
Can you do it in 60 days? Is that enough?
You think
60 days would be fine.
All right.
All right.
Let's postpone this for 60 days so she can get the survey work done and have a realtor appraisal for her.
Great, I appreciate that.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor of postponing for 60 days, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, when you when you have everything ready, go ahead and contact the building department.
Okay.
Okay?
Let's do the little green slips again.
No.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good evening.
Thank you, you too. Okay, petition number 9 is a petition for variance of developmental standards for Rebecca Henning and Michael Henning Jr. for continued placement of a mobile home to care for the elderly mother. Last variance granted 5/18/2010 for 3 years. The property is located at 2866 North, 850 East, Rolling Prairie, Wills Township, Zoned Ag on 1 acre.
Notice adequate.
Thank you. Would you state your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Barbara Henning, address 2868 North 850 East, Rolling Prairie, Indiana.
So your last variance was up in 2013.
Yep.
Is the elderly parent still living in the mobile home?
We live in the mobile home.
You are currently.
So my father-in-law lived in the home with her. And we were actually, because the last time we got a variance, we were approved for a loan to get a house. And then my father-in-law got real sick. So we stayed there to help take care of her, to help her with the bills, take care of the property. And we do maintain the property real well. And I know when Ashley came out and took pictures, the front of the mobile home did not look like it should be looking. And I have taken care of that. I've just been working a lot of hours. I work at Notre Dame and we have 2 commencements and Garth Brooks and everything else going on. So, and I work in events, so I'm like right in the middle of it. But I took this week off and I've been out there. I got the front of it all cleaned up and looking like it normally does look. And I did take pictures.
So what prevented you from returning for the variance from 2016 till
Just
now?
forgot I'm working and did not think of it.
So you do understand, should we approve your variance, it's your responsibility to come back to us within
Yes.
the allotted time period?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so we're staying there as long as my mother-in-law is alive. And then we'll take over the property after that. And the mobile home will be moved. We will not keep it on the property.
What year is the mobile home?
So it was purchased brand new when it was put on the property. I think it may be 25 years old, but we do maintain the skirting on it. We repair any holes if there's holes. You know, I keep the shutters painted in bright colors.
I know, it's nice.
So we do maintain the property.
So who lives in the house currently?
My mother-in-law.
Okay. So she's going to stay in the house. You and your husband are going to live in the mobile home
We've lived in the mobile home.
until she is unable to live in the house.
Yes.
And then
then
the mobile home will go away.
It's gone. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my mother-in-law and my father-in-law built that house, so we like to keep the house in the family.
No, and then the mobile home does look like it is well maintained.
It is.
Do we have any remonstrators this evening, either for or against this petition? Any remonstrators for or against this petition? Okay, seeing none, are there any questions from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that the petition for variance of developmental standards be granted for a period of 3 years. And also, we could put on there that, you know, when the mobile home is not needed for your use, that it will be removed.
Yes.
Thank you.
3 years renewable?
Renewable 3 years.
So in 3 years, I just come down and pay the $100 variance? Do I
You
need
come
to
back in front
and
of us.
court?
You would need to come back in front of us
Okay.
in 3 years.
Okay.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, petition number 10 is a petition for variance of developmental standards for Darcy and Gregory Brumley for construction of a new home with a front setback of 5 feet instead of the minimum 25 feet and a side setback of 6 feet instead of the minimum 10. Property is located at 250 Bluffside Road, LaPorte, Center Township, zoned R1B. I just love these.
Where's the affidavit?
Oh, I know.
That's adequate.
Thank you. If you would please state your name and address for the record.
Gregory Brumley.
Gregory, you can move that mic around so you're more comfortable.
I need this.
Very good.
Greg Brumley, 250 Bluffside Road, LaPorte, Indiana.
So you're gonna build a brand new house. Tear this one all the way down?
The house that was there was torn down
Right.
already, so it's
And
vacant.
brand new everything. All right. Let's just ask, are there any remonstrators this evening for this petition, either for or against?
Bill.
Well, I feel like I have to ask the same question I ask all of them, like, do we have to go all the way to did the parcel get smaller since you bought it? No, it's the same size. At 5 feet. But it appears to be an improvement over what was there, so.
The previous house
The previous house was
out of
and
compliance significantly. This
real
one's
snug
actually
on one
more in
side.
compliance.
So at least you're centering it back up, and it is a improvement.
Okay, I'll ask you, did you pick out a builder yet?
You missed your chance. I already called for those. Are there any other questions from the board?
On record.
Come on, Anna.
All right, I got it. So, Melissa, I'd like to provide motion, petition variance developmental standards to Darcy and Gregory Brumley to be granted.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Aye.
Good.
2 of us. Very good. Congratulations on your motion passed.
Thank you.
And petition number 11 this evening is a petition for variance of developmental standards for Rachel Farias for having a privacy fence without being 6 feet with front, being 6 feet instead of the maximum 3 foot 6 inches. The property is located at 7179 West Johnson Road, Michigan City, Cool Spring Township, zoned R1B on 0.58 acres.
Notice adequate.
Thank you, and if you would please state your name and address for the record.
Rachel Farias, 7179 West Johnson Road, Michigan City, Indiana.
And is this a new fence, I think?
Yes.
Fence is already up.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Got some phone calls about it.
Mic's on, please.
Got phone calls about it.
You know what you guys have that I probably, can I see that aerial?
Yeah.
I love the one picture.
Yeah. That's
It's on Johnson, I mean,
yeah.
is it
The front, Johnson
the
Road.
front, yeah.
Is there any particular reason why you fenced across the whole front of it on Johnson Road there?
Yes. As our house does not have a entry or exit straight to the backyard, we have 5 dogs. We've had one that was hit last month and had to have a leg amputated. So for the safety of my dogs and traffic, I needed a fence tall enough to keep my dogs in the yard. A 3.5 foot fence, which is what goes down the other side of the chain link. My small dog can climb that and my large dogs can jump it. So it's just simply for safety for my pets and safety for the drivers, to keep the dogs in my yard.
How do you access the property then, the front? Do you?
So
is there-
if you look at this picture,
Yes.
this is my driveway. Right here, there's an access door that goes into my yard and allows us access to the front yard and in and out of the house. So the dogs will come out the front, they can go around to the back, which is completely fenced in, and they're secure. There's no way for them to get out into the road. So.
I know this, been on this board a long, long time. We've previously told all other homeowners that you can't do it across the front of Johnson Road like that.
Right.
It's very obstructive as you drive by. I drove into your driveway 3 different ways on different angles just to make sure I get in and out of it. And it's tight and it is dangerous.
I've also have no issue getting in and out of my driveway. I've taken a video of backing out, and I wasn't aware of not being able to have the fence. Like I said, if we did a chain link or even a lattice fencing at the top where it's still visible or allowed for any type of viewing, my dogs would not be secure in the yard.
I'm just gonna.
What do you think about moving the fence back away from the road farther? I know it will shrink your yard.
It will shrink my yard quite a bit, and with having 5 dogs that are all German Shepherds,
No.
it doesn't allow enough room.
Well, I know, probably we've not allowed it before, I'll say that.
Yeah,
And I'm probably not in favor of this one.
Yeah, I understand the need, but I'm not in favor of the keeping it that close to the road either.
So my question is we're not allowed to have a fence at all in front on Johnson Road?
Restricted by height.
Height.
I believe the county, not just Johnson Road.
3.6.
3.5 front, 6.5 sides and rear.
So if you go down Johnson Road as you're going to LaPorte, there is another fence on the right-hand side of the road, and it measures the same. It's a 6-foot fence, but it tiers itself down, but each tier is still 6 foot, and it's in front of that property.
That close to the road?
Yes.
Not familiar with
Not
that.
familiar with that one either.
Yeah, it's on there.
Well, yours is the one in front of us, so we're
Yeah.
gonna deal with yours.
So I understand.
I'm trying to think of a plausible answer for it. I know the front's got to come down, I understand that. You can't stay like that.
It's got to be pushed back.
Yeah, back or down.
The question is how far?
Yeah.
I mean, we say the front of the house, it's the whole entire front of the house is 3.6, right? 3.5 feet. So if you push it back 1 foot or 12 feet, it'd still be 3.5 foot.
Right.
Right.
You'd basically have to go all the way back to the front plane of the house, right?
Right.
Right.
Can I see the aerial again?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
You know, as I look at this, it almost looks like it's outside of the right of way too.
It is.
It's on the right, it's on the road side of the right of way.
I'm saying, so I drove it in 3 different ways. And with my wife, taking a ride, getting in and out. It took a while to get in and out of that.
How far back do you think it should be moved?
Well, it doesn't matter how far back, that's what I asked, because it has to be 3 foot, 3.5 foot, no matter how far back you push it.
I guess for the purpose
If
of,
you put, how far back would you have to push it to make it safe? Yes, she's gonna
To
leave
leave
the front yard, but leave it
leave
6
the
foot,
height,
but push it
but-
back towards the home. 10 feet?
I don't know. That's still have to be a variance though.
Well, that's what
Exactly. That's what we're here for.
I know. I'm just thinking, I don't know if that's even enough. How much space do you have in your front yard now, from the fence line to the front of your house?
That would
You
be
can count the sections here. It's gonna be
8,
32?
yeah, 32, 40 feet.
32? It's a guess. So even took it back even half that.
even if you went to there, to what you think.
It's still being, I'm still gonna be in the front, and I don't know. There's no one else along there have asked for that. McPolly's asked for it, people past the fire station have asked for it. We've all said no, no, and no, and no, all the way down.
What prompted us to be here tonight, Mike?
Is that it's 8.
Was it a complaint? Or?
Yes, this was complaint induced, so Ashley and I stopped there personally, took pictures. We sent the letter out. That prompted the variance. So if the fence was able to be moved back to the threshold of the house or the 3.5 feet, then she wouldn't need to
Get a variance.
get a variance.
Right.
Just get a building permit.
So that your dogs can climb the fence if it were chain link at this height?
Potentially, 2 of our females could. If you look at this one, this is the chain link fence that runs between my driveway and the neighbor's house. This one is about 3.5 feet, maybe 4 feet.
I hope it's not over 3.5 feet.
I don't know. It's not my fence. I didn't.
Sure.
I didn't measure it.
Picture this.
But whatever
That's it.
size this fence is, they can paw and they can climb over that. So I'm afraid that if there is a chain link in the front and they're apt to see,
Does this,
somebody walking by or another animal or another dog,
No, it goes to the house. I don't know.
I don't want to take that chance of them escaping the yard. And I have another issue where I have another dog that I either have to bury or loses another limb.
so
Is the backyard fenced in too?
Yes, but I only have access from the front door. If I use the side door, I wouldn't be able to park in my garage and I would lose a whole parking space. If I took the fence from the front and moved part of it to that side, I would lose a whole parking space and the use of my garage. Because there's no back door to my house. You guys can come out and look if you want.
I didn't go to the front and checked it out already.
Yeah, there's no in and out directly to my backyard. If there was, we would definitely not be here and there would not be a fence in my front yard.
This is definitely a conundrum.
It is. What's that? Well, I'm not in favor of the front fence.
I'm not either. Mm-mm. Definitely not in favor of it either.
Could I make a suggestion and see if we can agree on something like that? What if instead of the 6 foot solid, I did a 4, maybe a 4.5 with a lattice on top, so it's not solid? Is that something that would be okay? Something where they wouldn't be able to get their paws in to jump over.
Maybe like a 4-foot chain link, then something solid?
No, she means like 3.6 feet solid and lattice or something open on the top.
Even a lattice doesn't provide a whole lot of visibility through it. I mean,
I know.
About the same thing you got now.
The other option would be to leave it at the height it's at, but compromise on a distance setback for obstruction on getting in and out in traffic.
Yeah, I think that was one of Glenn's, like maybe 10 feet you thought setback. Oh, pardon me.
I'm guessing these are about 10-foot sections. They should be 8, but
Yeah.
if
Are they 10 feet in the front?
I mean most.
From 4x4 to 4x4, those are 10
8.
feet? Yes,
Oh.
he did them 10 feet.
So if you went back to here, you'd get back 12 feet. Then you'd have better sight line. She actually could back round.
I mean, I'm more in favor of that. I mean, I don't like that less. If that makes sense.
It's whatever I guess we can live with tonight.
Well, obviously, moving it back to the house isn't going to work. So
Might as well not be there.
And then we wouldn't be here. But, I certainly want to
A
make
front
sure.
patio is not uncommon.
Yeah. Agreed.
And if you look at the other side with the tree side, I don't know.
Are there any remonstrators this evening for this petition, either for or against? Any remonstrators?
They called the commissioner. That's what they did.
I still have to check.
Then we moved it back to that post.
How would you feel about moving the fence back?
As long as I can keep the height, I would be okay with that.
Well, what we're proposing is moving it back to this post.
Okay.
That would leave a better line of sight for everybody.
A little bit safer, still
So you
room.
Just remove this section and push it back. Can we live with it?
That's doable. As long as, just so you understand, that's still against the code, but that's why you are here seeking a variance, and that is the compromise that they're discussing.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
So I'll entertain a motion.
As long as you can explain it when your phone starts ringing again.
I'd like to make a motion that the petition for variance of developmental standards for Rachel Ferris be granted to have a fence in the front yard, but it must be moved 12 feet towards the home. To this post,
Yes.
actually.
Do you want to mark that? We'll
I
make it
can't
part of the
say this
record.
post.
We're gonna mark it.
How
Give it
about
to
we
you.
circle it and then
Yeah.
I'll include it as an exhibit?
Yes, I think that's
I can't say Glenn said this post.
Works for us tonight.
Okay, so I have a motion.
Saving you work, you don't have to move that post.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
All right, good luck.
Thank you.
He's got his picture.
He's gonna get pumped. Yeah.
Mike, is there any other business in front of us this evening?
If there was, I forgot. I'm good till next month.
Thank you. I think motion adjourned.
Attorney BG, is there any further business?
No, ma'am.
All right, I will
Motion adjourned.
get a second.
Second.
All those in favor for adjournment? Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Good night. Thank you, everybody.
Cody.